Am I the asshole for ruining an engagement by revealing the truth about my horrible ex from 10 years ago? Original post. A little backstory is needed, so please stick with me. Growing up, I, F27, had a childhood friend, Angie, F27, who was as close as a real sister. We spent entire weekends at each other's place, celebrated family events, etc., from 6 years old till 18 years old. Elle even lived at her place in 2nd grade while my parents went to a nasty divorce. I learned to speak some Russian, as she is Russian, and she learned to speak some Spanish. Needless to say, her older brother and little sister were like a family to me. During our teenage years, she had her 2 male best friends, one whom she started dating, and another one, Nico, now 29, who was Russian as well, whom I started dating at 17. Growing up, I had issues with a heart condition. I won't bore you with the details, but I had to take a lot of meds, but got healthier starting from the 16th. I didn't have to take them daily, but only when my heart rate became irregular. But then immediately, as it would become extremely painful, my heart would cramp, I would start to hyperventilate. All my friends knew this, Nico included, and that I would black out if my meds got taken with alcohol. I didn't smoke much or drink much growing up as a result, since I was worried about my health and only did drink at home or in a safe setting. Legal drinking age is 16 here, and I only drank wine or beer if at all. I had my first time with Nico at 17, and when my parents stayed at a retreat 2 weeks later, he came over to have a date night. I did drink 1 glass of wine, but started having health issues later, resulting in me taking my meds and being unconscious. I was a bit sore the next morning but didn't think much about it. 2 weeks later, I'm informing Nico that I'm late on my period, and he starts to panic, confessing he had sex with me while I was unconscious. We had it before, so he didn't think much about it. Apparently he didn't have a condom, but since I was on the pill he figured it was all right, and he also didn't come in me, but in a tissue. I felt violated and disgusted by myself. I didn't know how to describe this and only told Angie about it. I was an utter mess for a few years, and wasn't able to have sex again until 2 years later. I didn't remember any of it, but was too ashamed to go to my mom or anybody else. I didn't think of it as rape back then. I was too young to really understand what and how I was violated, and Angie told me it's all right, I should break up if I feel bad about it, but we were in a relationship and did have sex before. I broke up with him the following day, and apparently he cried about his broken heart to her. As Nico and Angie were close and hanging out together a lot, they started dating a few months afterwards, and I had to see him every time when visiting her. I told her I'm not able to see him, but she didn't understand where I'm coming from. The contact stopped and we haven't texted or seen each other in years. I still followed her and her family and saw that her brother is expecting his first child. As I was extremely close with her family, I just commented on the Insta post expressing my gratitude when he reached out to me. I missed his wedding, but he wanted to ask if I would be interested in joining the baby shower, as it's been years and we've been extremely close before. He told me I was like a third little sister. I just asked if Nico will be attending as well, as Angie and him have been dating for 9 years now, and he said yes. I didn't elaborate much but just expressed that I'll send a small present if he can give me his current address, but won't be attending. He kept on pestering me what exactly happened all those years ago and why I'm not in their lives anymore. Angie told her family I'm not able to see her with an ex of mine, but her brother thought there's more behind it. This is when I think I could be the asshole. I told him the truth about what happened back then. And while I didn't know it at 17, I know now that this was rape, and I named it as such. I didn't receive any message back from him, but a few days later Angie reached out to me, furious. Nico had planned to propose during the baby shower, but Angie's brother is against it now, having learnt why I stopped the contact. She loves Nico and will stay with him, but by doing so, her brother said she is no longer a part of his life, as he doesn't want his little baby girl in the same family as a rapist. Since then I've been getting messages from old high school acquaintances, telling me I should have ignored it and not told anybody. Since I didn't speak up back then, I lost the right to do so now, and am a horrible person for ruining somebody's life over some stuff he did 10 years ago when he himself was a child as well. Am I truly the asshole for speaking up? AITA has no consensus bot. OP was NTA. Relevant comments. OP responds to multiple comments about how things are wrong, and she could speak up. OOP. I understand now how wrong it has all been, and that it's rape. But we grew up in a small town with approximately 5,000 people, and I honestly don't know which way it would have gone if I would have spoken up. He was 19 back then, 2 years older, and everybody is in everybody's business. It would have made sound back then, like it does now. They all still live there, and it has made its rounds. That's why so many of our old classmates are reaching out. Most of those who still live there have left me furious messages. They have known Nico for all their life, and are standing by him. I moved out when I was 20, my mom shortly after, and didn't stay in touch most. It still breaks my heart to get such a furious response from people who are my whole childhood. And thank you for all your best wishes. I genuinely appreciate it. OP did not ruin Nico's life. He did this himself. OP. I understand that what happened is on him. The backlash I am getting is because he apparently is not that person anymore, and in something he did as a teenager, according to Angie, should not ruin his life and is in no way related to the daughter her brother will have. I don't know if he will ever act out or do something, but it doesn't invalidate what happened to me, so thank you for confirming this. I just can't stop feeling bad about this having so many consequences. While I do not want to see Nico or Angie, I have made my peace with what happened to me back then. Commenter. But why are they attacking you and not the brother? You are not the one objecting to the marriage. Just feels like misogyny and victim blaming tbh. OOP. I guess because he is family, and I'm the outsider who ruined their family. I have been getting so many messages from people who didn't even have my number back then. I'm blocking the best I can. It's just hard to not let these comments get to your heart. Commenter. NTA. They got together so soon after the two of you broke up. I can't help but wonder if your friend was convincing you to break up with Nico because she was hoping to get with him all along. OPO, I honestly don't believe it. They've known each other for years and she broke up with her boyfriend 2 weeks before I broke up with Nico. It was a 5K town, even adding the people our age from nearby villages. Our school had 500 people attending, hence the options are very limited. OP on getting therapy in order to heal from her past trauma. OP. I was in therapy for 2 years and found peace with what happened to me. I am lucky, as I have no memory of it, but that didn't make it easier. It took me 2 years to be able to have any form of sexual contact again, but I am okay now. It's a part of me, but it's a part I can live with. Honestly, thank you for your kind words. OP on her health issues at the time when the incident happened. OP. Oh, it's not drunk blacked out. My medicine back then was supposed to lower my heart rate extremely, as I would have a racing heartbeat and my body would start to shut down, hyperventilating, my heart not being able to follow such strong use, and basically tripping over the high heart rate. My heart would start skipping beats, then not being able to follow my thin blood which flows faster than regular one, and the skipping would be the painful one, as it would start to cramp up. I'm sorry I'm not able to explain it better. English is not my primary language and I lack the medical vocabulary to fully describe it. The pill slowed my heartbeat and general body functions, thus making me extremely tired. I'd mixed it with alcohol. It would basically act like a super strong sleeping pill. My body could be thrown off a cliff and I wouldn't wake up. I did give consent for the first time we had sex, but that was our first and only time. I don't know if we would have had sex back then if I would have been conscious, as I didn't like it, being my first time and all, and wasn't that eager to repeat it. I don't think calling it rape is wrong, but what I had issues was if I should have approached this subject more sensible. In that way I can understand that I ruined their engagement plans for next week, or his surprise of one. Update 1. First of all, I am immensely thankful for all the people who took the time to not only read through my story but also comment. I read every single comment and tried to respond to as many as possible. It gave me a little bit of hope of compassion for victims of rape and also the courage to not cave to the backlash I received. Mental update. Reading all the messages defending my choices on speaking up made me realize how insecure I was about what I am allowed to do and how much I was trying to make it right to other people besides myself. This especially included Nico and Angie. All of you are right. If Nico had changed, he would have apologized, reached out, or tried to make amends in some way. Either when word got to him from his brother-in-law or at some earlier point in his life. My former best friend Angie should have been able to feel some sort of compassion if she had any respect for me as a human being or the time we spent together. Her reaction showed that I shouldn't hesitate in my actions. I went to therapy from 21 onwards and thought I moved on from the rape as best as I could, but I realized how ashamed I still am almost 10 years later about an incident that wasn't my fault at all. I was ashamed to speak up back then and afraid that people around me would look differently at me. And somehow I still felt bad about speaking up today, so I am trying to own what happened to me now and not apologize for other people's behaviors, especially as they don't even show me respect. What happened since then? I archived every nasty message I got on WhatsApp so I wouldn't have to read them, but would have the proof if needed at a later point. Angie's mom called me the following day of the incident, crying. I shouldn't have answered the phone, but during the 10 years of friendship I saw her as an aunt, almost a second mom. She always joked that while her children would run around the house doing whatever, I would always take the time to drink tea and talk with her, showing her more love and time than her actual children. While she said she's sorry for what has been and for what I went through as a child, she couldn't believe that I would ruin Angie's happiness over something like that. With Angie's brother refusing to have Nico as part of the family and Angie standing by Nico's side, it's divided their family and she is heartbroken. She has grown to love Nico like family as well and has known him for nothing more than a considerate young man who she knows will make her daughter happy. It wasn't nasty names or angry talk, just a heartbroken mother who faked to acknowledge my pain and saw the fault in me. Angie's mom tried to get me to apologize or to take it back, but I refused as I don't see the fault in me. With everything that has happened, I believe that Nico hasn't changed and is just hiding it better somehow. He can see how people are standing by him and supporting his behavior so he won't have to change. And that is something I didn't want to indulge. Angie's mom not even one used the word rape, and I tried to correct her every time she talked about it. Trying to name it for her to understand better, but she would just start sobbing more and it didn't make sense for us to continue to talk. Angie's mom used to be in contact with mine for some time, and she reached out to her after our talk. I was afraid that my mom would find out, since she's from a more conservative background. We had a long talk and I didn't get to see her, physically, yet, but she apologized for not being there for me or not making me feel like I can talk to her. I tried to calm her as best as I could, but when she asked me if my current partner knows I was used like that, I got angry. She was scared my partner would leave me if he found out, implying it was something that made me less precious or appealing. When she asked me to keep it a secret from our family abroad and in our country, I hung up. She was acting exactly the way I was afraid she would, as if it's something shameful. It was especially hard as I am trying my best to move away from the feeling of shame. She has since apologized, but it's clear that her view of me has changed. I don't yet know how to deal with it, but that's something to worry about in the next few weeks. As some of you suggested, I wrote Angie's brother, Sven, again and apologized for the mess, but am glad that it is out in the open and how proud I am that he's defending his family. I asked if his old email is still working as I would just send a gift card. He didn't respond, but I got a message from his wife 2 days ago. She thanked me for speaking up and informing them about Nico. There were apparently a few moments that made her uncomfortable, some jokes Nico made, and in retrospective she can see why. Sven apparently informed her the moment he got my initial text, and both of them have since seen Angie but not Nico. She refuses to be in the same room or house as him, and the same goes to their unborn daughter. Sven and Angie's mom has been at their place multiple times to beg to forgive Nico, and Sven caved a little. Angie and Nico will get married. Sven will attend but his wife will not. He is allowed in the family but not in contact with either Sven's wife or daughter. Those restrictions are not for Angie. Sven was suffering trying to ease his mother's worries and was not able to take a stand and cut them out completely. This is a compromise they made without his wife's approval, and she told me she's trying her best to cut them out of their life indefinitely. She wanted to move back, closer to her family as well, and thinks this is a perfect opportunity but isn't sure if she can follow through. His wife told me she's terribly sorry for all the issues that came my way and it has been a lot trying to handle the situation on their side. Sven knows it's not my fault but he doesn't want contact. It's hard for him to talk or see my name because even though he knows I'm not the guilty party, in some way I was the bearer of bad news and he sees me as the start of all this drama. She told me a few times that neither believe I'm the bad guy, they just are tired with everything and it's just been extremely hard on them. That's all that has happened so far. I am frustrated about how everything came to be. It feels like Nico will just continue with his life without having to be remorseful. I didn't want him to suffer, but I think some part of me wanted to at least receive some kind of apology for all the suffering I went through afterwards. I'm having to deal with my mother and her changed shameful view on me, and even though I'm happy it's all out, it's extremely hard to stand by my choices. My partner and my best friends both have been my shoulder to cry on during this ordeal. My best friend was especially enraged for me, and I am extremely grateful to have both by my side. Right now I'm just emotionally drained, but I'm sure it will be better once a few weeks pass. Comments. Commenter 1, you spoke up and did the right thing. If others can't handle the truth, that's their problem. Keep focusing on your healing and support. Commenter 2. NTA. Unfortunately, it's a tale as old as time. The woman is blamed and the rapist gets off without a blemish. Only by speaking the truth over and over will the situation improve, and when the boomers die off. Commenter 3. 100% the right thing. What you did may keep Nico from attacking someone else, or may encourage one of his other victims to step up. You never know how much people like you help everyone else, when you stand up and speak out and are not ashamed of what was not your fault, but will point the finger at the one to shame. You're making the world a better place. I'm sorry for the family Nico misled and the wife who was foolish enough to stay with him, but it's no longer your business. You did the right thing and it's going to help others. If no one else says it to you, thank you for doing all this. You are amazing. Update 2. My first post was 3 months ago and this one will be my last update for now. It is not a good one, but I sincerely wish to leave it all behind me. That includes distancing myself from this Reddit account. These posts helped me let go of my anger, similar to a journal, and I am grateful for all the people who are enraged with me. I hope to open it again someday, with a final happy update, but for now every little pop-up is a reminder of the anxiety I am still dealing with, and I do not have the energy to deal with this topic outside of my therapy anymore. Short summary for those who don't want to read the old post. Nico raped me when I was his girlfriend 10 years ago. I didn't see it as rape back then as I was unconscious. Afterwards I broke up with him. Shortly after, my best friend Angie from elementary school started dating him and they have been together for almost 10 years. I couldn't bear seeing him and cut contact with her and her family, with whom I was really close. Her brother Sven reached out to me 3 months ago after I left a short congratulation on a pregnancy picture with his wife. He invited me to their baby shower and I declined. After a lot of back and forth about him asking me and being suspicious as to why the contact broke off in the first place, and why I refused to be in the same space as his sister's boyfriend, I confessed what happened back when I was 17. Afterwards his family had a huge fight, with him wanting to cut Nico out of their lives for being a rapist and his mom and sister standing by Nico. I was the scapegoat and received a log of hurtful messages from both their friends and former classmates. They called me out on ruining a man's life based on a childish mistake. Nico was 19 back then. And even Angie's mom reached out to me. I was left to pick up my life, my mom being more ashamed than understanding, and started therapy again. I removed almost everybody tied to that incident: Sven, Angie, Nico, their family, old classmates. And only kept contact with old classmates who sended me messages of support. Update 2. I work in a very specialized field. To get the proper qualification it takes on average 6 to 8 years, bachelor, master and then state bar to be allowed to practice. While it is not very competitive, not a lot of people choose this profession, and it is highly sought after. My current company paid for my master's and my extensive course as preparation for the bar exam, and I have been doing well there. My HR department called me 2 months ago. Apparently they have been getting a lot of outside calls from Angie's mother and other relatives, saying I am involved in a Me Too scandal and being a liability for the company as I don't have issues ruining the lives of men. How they could imagine this could change anything I do not understand. I work for a global company, they have known me for years, I never had any issues prior and quite frankly, they do not care. However, they have been getting frustrated with the amount of calls and apparently even reached out to the police and the calls have stopped since. Nonetheless, they reached out to me to check on my mental well-being, offering to give me paid leave, till it settles a little bit, and offering company paid therapy. Therapy is covered by my country's health insurance but it is tricky to get one without waiting time. But I already had my old one on retainer and started going right after the incident. They made it clear that they invested a good amount of money in me and do not wish to lose me. I was ashamed that this part of my private life slipped into my professional one. It started to influence the career I worked hard for years to build, and while my company assured me that it would not affect the workload and clients I'm getting, word got around, and it was clear for my colleagues that I am going through something nasty, and the company does not want to deal with it. All this stress and anxiety led me to hyper-focus on my work. I took on whatever I could, paranoid that another call would come and for whatever reason, the company would move me to a dead-end department where my career would basically be over. At the same time, I started looking into different companies, who would be able to buy me out, as I am tied to my current company for 5 years after graduation, 3 more are left and I got a management position in a rival company with a huge salary jump. I couldn't be happy about it, I was just relieved I wouldn't get the pity looks from my colleagues anymore. I went to the police with all the hateful messages and the HR protocol with the call history and got a restraining order for Angie's mom. Should she contact my new company again, I have a public LinkedIn, it is needed for my job. At least I have some sort of proof that her words hold no meaning. I got asked if I want to pursue the rape but decided against it. It would open the whole ordeal again. I don't have proof, besides Nico and Angie not denying it, and quite honestly was afraid of what it would do to my career. I did keep contact with a good friend of mine who grew up in the same small town but moved away 5 or so years ago. As we share a Nintendo Switch Online family account, so we tend to be in contact at least once a year for a short phone call when she has to send me the money for the subscription, and we just tend to make a phone call with updates out of it. Yesterday was one of those days and the whole Nico thing came up. While she didn't hear it directly, her mom is still living in the small town and reached out to her, asking if I'm alright. She expressed her disapproval about how everything came to be, as she was close with Angie back in the days as well and remembered how close we were and how often we spent time together, like sisters. She informed me that 2 months later, 7 baby girls were born, and while neither Nico or Angie were seen in any of the pictures or stories with the baby, a month ago Angie and Nico had an engagement party. Both Sven, the baby, and his wife participated, and are in the family pictures. I remember how enraged Sven's wife was, and how she told me she herself felt I was comfortable with Sven. Now it is all forgotten and forgiven. Nico's parents own a few houses and gave Angie and Nico a house close to their home, and Sven and his wife apparently bought a house in the same street. It is as if nothing happened at all. Listening to my friend telling me the updates, I'm honestly not sure if I should have asked her to not tell me anything. I just feel empty and betrayed. Not by Angie, she made her choice, not by Sven, it is his sister, and at the end of the day when he asked me what happened and then didn't have the decency to answer me because he saw me as the one who ruined his family, it was clear that the truth didn't matter. Not by Sven's wife, who has a baby girl, an innocent daughter who she should protect as a mother, even though she told me she would do her best to keep her daughter away from Nico, but just by life. I fought to have it all behind me, just to have this old wound ripped open again 3 months ago when Sven kept plastering me. I got hate messages, but knowing that maybe someone would be hesitant towards Nico, when he showed strange behavior, made me feel like maybe I did right. Maybe by speaking up I helped a girl out to not be raped. My own mother was ashamed of what happened to me, told me I was to keep it quiet so my family abroad wouldn't get to hear it. Just for it all to be all good again for Nico. After everything that happened these last 3 months, I truly understand why victims of rape chose not to speak up. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. As a victim of the same type of abuse, though not RP, from a former romantic partner, you are worth more than you think. You do not need to suffer in silence or shame. You didn't do anything wrong or anything to be ashamed of. I am so proud of you for telling your truth. From one survivor to another, you are worthy of love, acceptance, and happiness. Life hasn't betrayed you, even though it feels like the world and everyone in it has turned their back on you. People do care, you matter, and you will outshine the shadows of your past when you find the courage to embrace the future with open arms. I believe in you, and I am proud of you. Keep being you. Commenter 2. I hope you get to heal and have no shame. From the interaction with your mother, she sounds Latin, which can be very tricky with this stuff. Nevertheless, the reaction is not on you but on her. Deutsch? I am unsure if so, but in some small tiny towns they are very backwards. All that doesn't matter, you get to deal with this at whatever rhythm you feel comfortable. You are not used. You are not less than, you are a woman that has survived. I send you a big hug. Ope. Yes, my mom is Latin, but I grew up in a small village with maybe 5,000 people. My grandpa used to be a pastor, which makes it so much harder. Even though my mom has been living in Germany for 30 years, speaks perfectly even with the local dialect, she's not progressive. It doesn't help that the small village itself isn't progressive either. I moved out at 18 and never looked back. In her eyes it is my fault since I had a boyfriend at 17 and now I am damaged goods because of the rape. We don't talk about her hurtful words anymore and she is trying her best to be more understanding, but at the end of the day it is internalized. I know I am not less, but after everything surfaced, the shame, the anxiety and less just came back, after I worked years to get over it. It will take time, I'm sure I'll get there again, even though it doesn't feel like it right now. My partner is telling me over and over again, reminding me of my worth, and I am sure one of these days it's going to stick. Thank you for your words. During a family vacation, my husband's family treated me coldly and isolated me. He justified their behavior as family tradition. I plastered on a smile and said, "Perfect. I have my own way too." The next morning, all hell broke loose. They found out what I'd done. In looking back, the signs were always there. The casual digs, the dismissive glances, the way I was always treated as an afterthought in my own marriage. But I ignored them. I loved my husband, Mark. I kept telling myself that if I just kept trying, if I was patient enough, things would change. They didn't. Instead, I ended up on this family vacation in Hilton Head, South Carolina, supposed to be fun and relaxing, but it turned into something else entirely. Something I'll never forget. We'd just arrived at the resort. Picture perfect, you know? White sand, palm trees, the sound of the waves. I was actually excited. I hoped, maybe naively, that this trip would be different. That my in-laws, Richard and Susan, would finally warm up to me. That we'd sit together, laugh, actually bond as a family. I was wrong. That first night, we went to a nice restaurant. The waiter led us to a long table set for our group. Just as I was about to sit next to Mark, Richard piped up. "Oh, there must be some mistake," he said, shaking his head. "She'll need her own table." I blinked, thinking I'd misheard. "Excuse me?" Susan didn't even look up from her menu. It's just how we do things. I looked at Mark, waiting for him to say something, to tell them how ridiculous this was. That I was his wife, not some random stranger. Instead, he just sighed and shrugged. It's just their way, he muttered. Their way. So, I sat at my own table. Alone. I should have walked out right then and there. But I didn't. I told myself it was just a weird tradition, a one-time thing. It wasn't. The next morning, I got up early to go to breakfast with my family. I headed down to the hotel restaurant, expecting to see them waiting. They weren't. I texted Mark. No response. I wandered around for nearly half an hour before finding them already sat at a large table, halfway through their meal, laughing and chatting as if nothing was wrong. As if I didn't exist? I walked up, completely puzzled. Why didn't you tell me you were coming down? Richard barely glanced up. We assumed you'd figure it out. Susan sipped her coffee. It's just how we do things. I looked at Mark. He was already eating, acting like everything was perfectly normal. That's when it hit me. I wasn't part of their family. I never had been. And Mark. He wasn't on my side. The rest of the trip followed the same depressing pattern. Every meal, I ate alone. Every group activity, they casually forgot to invite me. They went on a private boat cruise, which I learned about from their damn Instagram. They did a formal wine tasting, I only realized when I walked past them in the foyer, all dressed up and heading out the door. I asked Mark about it later. You could have texted me, I said, trying to keep my voice even. He just groaned again, as if I were the one being difficult. It's just their way. That was the only answer he ever gave me. By the fourth day, I'd had it. I stopped trying. I stopped asking. They wanted me to be invisible? Fine. But they had no idea what was coming. I had my own way too. That night, while they were out drinking and enjoying their perfect little family vacation, I went back to the hotel room and got to work. I wasn't just sitting at a separate table, I was prepared to remove myself entirely. And they were about to feel it. I pulled up my email, opened the reservation confirmations, and got to work. Because guess what? I had booked everything. The hotel bore my name. The rental car was paid for with my credit card. The dinner reservations were on my account. Susan had been looking forward to her resort spa day for weeks. Oh, yes. I'd booked that too. I canceled everything. One by one. I wiped their precious little vacation off the map. Their rooms? Canceled. Their rental car? Gone. Their fancy dinner at the seaside restaurant? Not happening. I even called the spa to politely advise them that Susan would not be attending. Then, I packed my bags, took the rental car, and left. While they were clinking glasses and toasting to their ideal family dynamic, I was already driving down the highway towards Charleston. I booked myself a luxury suite, ordered room service, and sat on the balcony overlooking the ocean, finally at peace. Meanwhile, back at Hilton Head, all hell was breaking loose. I woke up in Charleston feeling refreshed for the first time in days. The seaside wind blew through my hotel room as I sipped my coffee and sprawled out in a soft lounge chair, watching the waves roll in. Then, my phone started buzzing nonstop. Mark. I let it ring. Then Susan. Then Mark again. Then Richard. I put my phone on silent and smiled. They'd finally noticed. I plastered on a smile and said, perfect. I have my own way too. The next morning, all hell broke loose. They found out what I'd done. In looking back, the signs were always there. The casual digs, the dismissive glances, the way I was always treated as an afterthought in my own marriage. But I ignored them. I loved my husband, Mark. I kept telling myself that if I just kept trying, if I was patient enough, things would change. They didn't. Instead, I ended up on this family vacation in Hilton Head, South Carolina, supposed to be fun and relaxing, but it turned into something else entirely. Something I'll never forget. We'd just arrived at the resort. Picture perfect, you know? White sand, palm trees, the sound of the waves. I was actually excited. I hoped, maybe naively, that this trip would be different. That my in-laws, Richard and Susan, would finally warm up to me. That we'd sit together, laugh, actually bond as a family. I was wrong. That first night, we went to a nice restaurant. The waiter led us to a long table set for our group. Just as I was about to sit next to Mark, Richard piped up. Oh, there must be some mistake, he said, shaking his head. She'll need her own table. I blinked, thinking I'd misheard. Excuse me? Susan didn't even look up from her menu. It's just how we do things. I looked at Mark, waiting for him to say something, to tell them how ridiculous this was. That I was his wife, not some random stranger. Instead, he just sighed and shrugged. It's just their way, he muttered. Their way. So, I sat at my own table. Alone. I should have walked out right then and there. But I didn't. I told myself it was just a weird tradition, a one-time thing. It wasn't. The next morning, I got up early to go to breakfast with my family. I headed down to the hotel restaurant, expecting to see them waiting. They weren't. I texted Mark. No response. I wandered around for nearly half an hour before finding them already sat at a large table, halfway through their meal, laughing and chatting as if nothing was wrong. As if I didn't exist? I walked up, completely puzzled. Why didn't you tell me you were coming down? Richard barely glanced up. We assumed you'd figure it out. Susan sipped her coffee. It's just how we do things. I looked at Mark. He was already eating, acting like everything was perfectly normal. That's when it hit me. I wasn't part of their family. I never had been. And Mark. He wasn't on my side. The rest of the trip followed the same depressing pattern. Every meal, I ate alone. Every group activity, they casually forgot to invite me. They went on a private boat cruise, which I learned about from their damn Instagram. They did a formal wine tasting, I only realized when I walked past them in the foyer, all dressed up and heading out the door. I asked Mark about it later. You could have texted me, I said, trying to keep my voice even. He just groaned again, as if I were the one being difficult. It's just their way. That was the only answer he ever gave me. By the fourth day, I'd had it. I stopped trying. I stopped asking. They wanted me to be invisible? Fine. But they had no idea what was coming. I had my own way too. That night, while they were out drinking and enjoying their perfect little family vacation, I went back to the hotel room and got to work. I wasn't just sitting at a separate table, I was prepared to remove myself entirely. And they were about to feel it. I pulled up my email, opened the reservation confirmations, and got to work. Because guess what? I had booked everything. The hotel bore my name. The rental car was paid for with my credit card. The dinner reservations were on my account. Susan had been looking forward to her resort spa day for weeks. Oh, yes. I'd booked that too. I canceled everything. One by one. I wiped their precious little vacation off the map. Their rooms? Canceled. Their rental car? Gone. Their fancy dinner at the seaside restaurant? Not happening. I even called the spa to politely advise them that Susan would not be attending. Then, I packed my bags, took the rental car, and left. While they were clinking glasses and toasting to their ideal family dynamic, I was already driving down the highway towards Charleston. I booked myself a luxury suite, ordered room service, and sat on the balcony overlooking the ocean, finally at peace. Meanwhile, back at Hilton Head, all hell was breaking loose. I woke up in Charleston feeling refreshed for the first time in days. The seaside wind blew through my hotel room as I sipped my coffee and sprawled out in a soft lounge chair, watching the waves roll in. Then, my phone started buzzing nonstop. Mark. I let it ring. Then Susan. Then Mark again. Then Richard. I put my phone on silent and smiled. They'd finally noticed. I stared out at the ocean, at the waves crashing gently against the shore. No, I said, my voice firm. I think I've already fixed it. And I hung up. After I hung up on Mark, I sat there staring at my phone, my mind racing. Mark had known. He'd seen all of this before, and he still let me walk right into it. I wasn't just furious anymore, I was done. I poured myself another drink, leaned back in my lounge chair, and tried to enjoy the rest of the evening. But something kept nagging at me. If he'd lied about his ex-wife, what else had he lied about? I decided to do some digging. I opened Facebook and searched for her name, Rachel, Mark's ex-wife. I had never thought to look her up before, but now I needed answers. Her profile was private, but I scrolled through her mutual friends, searching for anyone who might be willing to talk. That's when I spotted her sister's profile, Lauren. And she had public posts. I clicked on one from 2 years ago, shortly after Rachel and Mark had split. Never let a man's family destroy you. Never let them convince you that you're less than you are. My sister deserved better. We all tried to warn her, never again. My stomach lurched. I scrolled further and found an old comment from Sarah, Mark's cousin, the same one who had messaged me. I wish she'd listen to us. At least she's free now. Listen to them. I sat there, my heart pounding. I didn't know what to do. I could message Lauren. I could ask her what really happened, but was I ready to hear it? I stared at the screen for a long time. Then finally, I took a deep breath and typed. Hey, this is going to sound really random, but I think we need to talk. She replied within minutes. Lauren didn't waste time. Lauren, I was wondering when you'd reach out. That one message hit me like a punch to the gut. Me. You know who I am? Lauren. Yeah. We've been waiting for this to happen. I stared at the screen, my fingers frozen over the keyboard. Me? We? What do you mean? Lauren. Rachel wasn't the first, you know, and she certainly wasn't the last. My breath hitched. Me? What are you saying? Lauren. I'm saying Mark has done this before. More than once. His parents have done this before. More than once. And if you're talking to me right now, I'm guessing you just went through it too. I felt sick. This wasn't just some isolated incident. This was a game to them. A twisted little tradition they played with every woman Mark brought into his life. They never saw his partners as real family, just obstacles to be overcome. And Mark? He let it happen. Every single time. Me? Why didn't anyone tell me? Lauren? We tried. But Mark always makes sure his girlfriends stay isolated. He tells them his family just has quirks or traditions. He makes sure they don't ask too many questions. Did he ever tell you Rachel was the problem? I closed my eyes. He had. He'd painted Rachel as difficult, as someone who never understood his family, who always made drama over small things. But now I knew the truth. Rachel hadn't been dramatic. She'd been trapped. And now so was I. Or at least, I had been until now. I didn't sleep that night. The realization that I had wasted years of my life on this man burned in my chest. But there was something else, too. Something I couldn't quite put my finger on. Why had Mark called me so many times today? Why was he this desperate? Then, at 6 a.m., I got my answer. A text popped up from an unknown number. Ma'am, this is Officer Daniels with the Hilton Head Police Department. We need to speak with you regarding a missing persons report filed by your husband. I sat up so fast I nearly knocked my phone across the room. A missing persons report? I scrambled to call back, my mind racing. The second the officer answered, I blurted out, I'm fine, I'm not missing. A pause. Then, ma'am, are you saying you left voluntarily? Yes, obviously, I left voluntarily. My husband knows exactly where I am, he's been calling me nonstop. The officer sighed. Your husband reported that you left without explanation and haven't been answering his calls. He said he was concerned for your safety. I clenched my jaw so hard my teeth ached. This wasn't concern. This was control. Mark hadn't been worried about me, he had been trying to force me to come back. I took a deep breath. Officer, I am perfectly fine. I am in Charleston. I left Hilton Head by choice. I am not missing, and I do not want my husband contacting me. A pause. Would you like to file a formal request for no further contact? I hesitated, then finally exhaled. Yes, I would. And just like that, I drove the first legal nail into the coffin of my marriage. Less than an hour later, my phone buzzed with a new text. This time it was from Susan. Susan? I cannot believe you would humiliate us like this. I laughed out loud. I ignored it. Then, another message. Susan. You made Mark involve the police. Do you have any idea how this looks? Oh, I made Mark involve the police? I rolled my eyes and took another sip of my coffee. Then, the messages kept coming. Susan. This family has done nothing but try to welcome you. Susan. You're being incredibly selfish. Susan. You need to come back and fix this. And finally. Susan. If you don't come back, Mark is going to make things very difficult for you. I froze. This wasn't even subtle. It was a threat. I sat back in my chair, rereading the message over and over. I had thought this was just about control, just about their twisted little family games. But now I realized something much worse. They weren't just trying to humiliate me, they were trying to break me. And if I didn't do something fast, Mark was about to make sure they succeeded. I stared at Susan's text for a long time. If you don't come back, Mark is going to make things very difficult for you. It wasn't just a warning, it was a promise. I could feel it now, the shift. This wasn't just them being cold or dismissive. This was a battle, and I was supposed to roll over and lose. But I wouldn't. Not this time. I cracked my knuckles, took a deep breath, and sent one single message back. Me. Perfect. Let's make things difficult then. Then, I booked a hotel conference room in Charleston and invited everyone. Mark, his parents, and Sarah. Because if they wanted a war, I was going to bring it right to their doorstep. The next morning, I sat in the conference room, waiting. The long wooden table was set with nothing but bottled water and the thick silence of anticipation. I didn't have to wait long. The door slammed open. Mark stormed in first, his jaw clenched so tightly I thought his teeth might shatter. His parents followed, Susan's heels clicking sharply against the floor, Richard's face already flushed with anger. Sarah came in last, hesitant, her arms crossed. She gave me a slight nod. I had no idea if she was there as a witness, a mediator, or just for the front row seats to the coming implosion. I leaned back in my chair. Glad you could all make it. Mark's voice was tight. What the hell is this? I smiled, slow and deliberate. A conversation. You've been so eager to talk, so let's talk. Richard scoffed, arms crossed over his chest. You think this is funny? No. I said quietly. I think it's pathetic. I think you people play sick little games with the women in your family, and you finally picked the wrong one. Susan's eyes narrowed. You abandoned us? I laughed. I actually laughed. Oh, did I abandon you? That's rich, coming from the people who spent an entire vacation pretending I didn't exist. Mark sighed heavily, gripping the back of a chair. You're blowing this out of proportion. That was it. That was the moment. I slammed my hands down on the table so hard that Susan visibly flinched. I am your wife, my voice resonated in the room, cold and clear. Not a stranger. Not some random outsider. I am your wife, and you let them treat me like nothing. And you, I stabbed a finger at Mark. Knew this wasn't the first time, you knew exactly what was happening, and you let it happen anyway. His face lost all color. Susan cut in quickly, her voice sharp. We were just following tradition, I shot back. It's not tradition, it's control. It's a test, and you fail every woman who walks into this family. Mark shook his head. You're overreacting. I grabbed my phone, pulled up the text from Lauren, and threw it onto the table in front of him. Read it. He hesitated. Read it slowly. Mark reluctantly picked up the phone and scrolled. I watched his face tighten with every word. Then he threw the phone down as if it had burned him. This isn't proof of anything. Richard crossed his arms. You're dredging up old stories. It has nothing to do with us. I turned to Susan. Is that right? Because last night you sent me a message threatening me. You told me if I didn't come back, Mark would make things difficult. Her mouth snapped shut. Sarah let out a low whistle. Damn. Mark whipped his head towards his mother, his eyes hardening. What did you do? Susan stiffened. I was trying to make her understand. Understand what? Mark's voice rose. That you've been playing this game for years? That you did the same thing to Rachel? Richard shifted uncomfortably. Susan shot him a desperate look, but the damage was done. Mark's jaw ticked. Jesus Christ. And just like that, I saw it. The crack. The tiniest fracture in his carefully constructed loyalty to his parents. The moment he realized I hadn't been wrong. That I had never been wrong. Mark turned back to me. For the first time, he actually looked unsure. I stared at him, waiting to see if he would finally say something that mattered. But then he ran a hand through his hair. I can fix this. My stomach dropped. That was his first instinct. Not an apology, not regret, not a goddamn ounce of empathy. Just fixing the optics. I leaned back, exhaling slowly. You really don't get it, do you? Silence. I stood up, adjusting my bag. I'm not coming back, Mark. That jolted him into action. Wait, what? I'm done. His eyes widened. Sarah snorted derisively. Dude, how have you not figured that out by now? Susan's voice turned shrill. This is ridiculous. You're throwing away your marriage over a misunderstanding. I shook my head. No, Susan. You threw it away. You and Richard, with your sick, twisted way of treating people. Mark was just too weak to stop it. Mark reached for my arm, but I stepped back, out of his reach. Wait, let's talk about this. I held up my hand, stopping him. No, Mark. You talk, you make excuses, you let them control you, but I'm done listening. I grabbed my phone and walked to the door. Mark's voice was almost desperate now. Wait. Where are you going? I turned back, staring at him one last time. I'm leaving. Susan scoffed. You can't just leave a marriage. I met her gaze, my expression utterly blank. Watch me. Then, I walked out the door. It took 6 months to finalize the divorce. Mark tried everything, begging, pleading, blaming, even accusing me of overreacting. But I never looked back. Sarah stayed in touch. She told me things imploded after I left. Apparently, Mark finally confronted his parents, and it wasn't pretty. Richard called him weak. Susan cried, saying I had brainwashed him. For the first time, Mark saw them for who they truly were. It didn't change anything for me. I was already gone. I moved back to Charleston permanently. I found a new apartment, reconnected with old friends, and started rebuilding my life. One night, months later, I got a text from an unknown number. Mark. I see it now. I'm sorry. I stared at it for a long time. Then, with a deep breath that felt like releasing years of pent-up tension, I deleted it. Because, for the first time in what felt like forever, I was free. I lost my best friend to cancer, then found out her child is my husband's. But I believe my husband is the victim. I don't even know where to start. The past 6 months have been an absolute clusterfuck, and it only seems to be getting worse. My best friend since elementary school, who I'll call Alice, passed away in February from cancer. She had a 2-year-old daughter who went into the custody of her mom after she passed away, who I'll call Alexis. Last month Alexis showed up on our doorstep unannounced, telling my husband he needs to take responsibility for his child and either take custody or start finally paying child support. She says that Alice had told her when her daughter was born who the father was, but didn't want anything to do with him. To answer the inevitable, Alice was a traveling nurse and made a lot of money, which is the only reason I can think of for why she didn't go for child support. During this conversation my husband had the worst panic attack he's ever had, so we had to end the conversation before I could get more details. My husband's story is, I don't even know. He said that Alice's daughter is probably his, but that it isn't what I think. Almost 3 years ago we threw a large housewarming party as we'd just moved into our dream home, after I finally finished residency and was set to make real money for once. Alice was in town, and set to be at the party, but I was called into work before she got there. I didn't get back till after 3 a.m., the party was winding down, my husband had passed out upstairs, and Alice had already left the party, which at the time I did find strange as we hadn't seen each other in months. My husband claims he woke up in the middle of the night to Alice on top of him, but he passed out again before he could say anything. He claims he never told me because he was worried I wouldn't believe him, which I don't know if I do. He showed me some texts he sent his best friend the next day asking for his advice about him thinking someone raped him, but if he cheated he could have had that conversation as evidence, especially since he never said Alice specifically. Ever since the party he has been very distant with Alice, and after she had her daughter he would even find excuses not to be around the house when she would visit at all. I don't know if that's because he cheated, or if Alice did actually rape him and this was his trauma response. Honestly, I don't know what to do. I've known Alice since we were children and she had never come across as that kind of person. But I've also known my husband for over a decade and he's not once ever given the inclination of a cheater. He's an attractive guy and I've seen the looks he gets at the gym and he's never even given more than a glance. What the hell should I do? How do I figure out what the truth is here when Alice isn't even around to defend herself? She never even implied she liked my husband, let alone want to sleep with him. I told my husband he needs to get a DNA test before anything is decided on the child's part, but in the meantime he needs to move out while I think about what I'm going to do here. TLDR. Husband maybe has an affair baby, he claims he was raped by my dead best friend. Edit. After talking with you, I've come to the realization that my husband is being truthful. My best friend raped him. Several people pointed out that with Alice not liking my husband, if it was an affair, she would have told me when she was dying, if only to separate us. You're absolutely right. I was there, in the room while she passed. I held her hands for days, we talked about so much. If it was just an affair, she would have told me. But if she raped my husband, she wouldn't have said a word. That's the type of thing horrible people take to the grave. I've also come to the realization that I made a terrible mistake asking my husband to leave for a few days while I gather my thoughts. Not to make excuses, but losing my best friend to cancer, a long cancer fight at that, was brutal. To say that I was devastated wouldn't do it justice. That it happened only 6 months ago, I'm still feeling it every day. So to have this thrown on me? It's like I'm losing her all over again. Either she betrayed me and fucked my husband, or she betrayed me and raped my husband. Not only have I lost her, but now I've lost the good memories, an entire lifetime's worth. It was impossible for me to look at him and not also see her, and be struck with the horror and realization of that loss all over again. I felt I needed to be able to break down, grieve, and think without the fresh wave of loss I got every time I saw him. It was wrong of me to ask him to leave, You're right though, and as of a few minutes ago I've righted this wrong. I called my husband, apologized, told him I believe him, and begged him to come home. He'll be here in half an hour at most, and I'm going to support my husband the way I know he would have supported me. I've been an off and on Reddit user for several years, and sometimes the advice given on subreddits like these can be a bit hit or miss. But today you guys did good. You've helped me realize not only that I was wrong, and being stupid at that, but that I was hurting the person that needed me the most. I was selfish. I have no idea what we're going to do as far as the potential daughter is concerned, but I can assure you we'll deal with it together. It's going to take a lot of time and probably a lot of therapy to grieve this new loss. I feel numb now, as though I'll never cry again. My best friend raped my husband, which means she was no friend of mine. She flaunted it, coming to my house, sitting with me, and gabbing. She brought her child here, trying to rub it in his face, right in front of me. She tortured the man I loved, and I was an unknowing party to it. I feel sick to my stomach over how many times she came over, just to hold it over him. I'm honestly at a loss on how to make that up to him. If you all have any ideas, please feel free to give them to me. I think I'll need all the help I can get. Tomorrow I'm going to take a leave of absence from work, just until we can figure out our next steps, and we can get our heads on straight. Comments. Comment 1, wow OP that is a mess. Paternity test for sure. The old text the next day sealed it for me. I think your friend took advantage of your husband. Good luck, this is the story of the day for me. Comment 2, I don't know you or your marriage, but I think I would be inclined to believe and support my husband with the few details you've given. Comment 3. His reaction screams trauma response to me. Not being believed is a victim's worst nightmare. It's hard to be rational with these types of events, but could she have slipped him something? Did she have a history of one-night stands? Could they have been extra chummy because you weren't there and they were drinking? I find it odd she specifically asked about him the first time the baby was over and that she didn't approve of him. On what basis? Edit. Lawyer up and then paternity test. Can you have a calm and collected conversation with your spouse that you want to believe in him but you're also a mess emotionally and that you need a mediator together? Therapist? But mostly lawyers up now. I'm so sorry you're dealing with this. Update. I've received a lot of messages asking for an update, so I've decided to finally sit down and write one out. As you can imagine, after the clusterfuck that was thrust upon us, this update isn't likely to answer any of your questions, only present a few more. I want to start by telling you all that I love and trust my husband. My reaction to ask him for space to think, in retrospect, was wrong. But at the time I didn't know what to think. It was a combination of losing my best friend again, and also the fear that I was losing my husband, that sent me spiraling. Again, it was a mistake to ask him to leave, and I did rectify that in the end. Now, for the update. As mentioned in the original post, I did take a leave of absence from work and we spent a long time just being together. Talking, reaffirming our love for one another, and figuring out what to do next. We of course spoke with a lawyer, and my husband was very adamant about not having anything to do with the child, but was willing to offer financial support as needed. So we agreed to do a DNA test immediately to prove paternity, and then go from there. Didn't know you could buy tests on Amazon, but with only a few weeks processing it was the easiest path forward since Alexis lives hours away. To everyone's surprise, Alice's daughter is not my husband. We ended up testing twice, both very, very definitive. The first test we performed ourselves as mentioned, and another after Alexis refused to believe the first test, and took my husband to court for child support. For a single second this whole thing made me second guess if my husband was raped, that this could have been her way of forcing my husband to admit to an affair. But after talking with Alexis, I don't think that was the plan. Alexis says that Alice told her my husband was the father under strict confidence, demanding that she never, ever tell me or my husband. We were only ever to be told if Alexis died before Alice's daughter was old enough to take care of herself, so that she wouldn't end up in foster care. The only reason Alexis came to us then, instead of keeping that secret, is because Alice's life insurance wasn't being released yet, and she was out of options. She also felt I should know my husband and her daughter had had an affair. This all reaffirms in my mind that Alice did rape my husband, with the expectation of getting pregnant with his child. She obviously had other partners at the time, since one of them fathered her daughter, but no one knows who. It's clear to me that Alice believed it was my husband. I did suggest Alexis upload a sample to Ancestry, see if any matches pop up, but as Alice traveled all over for work, I don't know that anything will ever come of that. In truth, I've washed my hands of the situation. Alice did enough damage, and I don't particularly plan to be around for any more. My husband and I have gone through a lot of counseling, and will likely continue for a while. This whole situation damaged us both, my husband more obviously, and I don't think we'll fully heal for a very long while. To answer a few questions. No, sadly there isn't a hidden diary, or text to explain what the fuck was going on. My husband and I are not getting divorced. He understands why I reacted the way I did, and has been strong when I was weak before. I've spent the past 7 months being strong while he was weak, so we're considering the whole thing even. We are still madly in love and plan to be together for a long time still, more on this. No, we will not be adopting Alice's child. If she had been my husband, we would not have been adopting the child. Ultimately, I thank Reddit for setting me straight. There was a massive outpouring of support and corrective advice. To say I got a slap in the face would be a descriptive but apt way to put it. I needed it then, and I thank you for it. To say that you may have saved my marriage is an understatement. I do, however, have some good news. During my leave of absence, while my husband and I rediscovered what makes us love each other the most, I got pregnant. We're expecting our first baby, a girl, in a little over 3 months, and my husband and I are ecstatic. And no, we will not be naming her after my dead ex-best friend. TLDR. Not my husband's baby, not our problem. No answers, just questions, and oh, I'm having a baby. I walked away when my boyfriend said he wanted kids. Then I found out the betrayal went even deeper, involving my own best friend. I don't even know where to begin, you know? It's like, where do you start when your life has become a complete and utter train wreck? Maybe from the beginning, I guess. About a year ago, I met Mark. He was going through it. Separated from his wife, divorce papers flying back and forth, the whole 9 yards. I'm usually super careful about dating guys who are only separated. Too much baggage, too much potential for things to go sideways. But with Mark, it was different. We just clicked. We had this instant connection, this shared sense of humor. I found myself dropping my guard, ignoring all the red flags that were practically waving in my face. In hindsight, I was an idiot, but love makes you blind, right? Right from the start, I made one thing crystal clear. I can't have kids. Medical reasons. Hysterectomy waiting list and all that. I'm child-free, period. It's a non-negotiable. Mark always said it didn't bother him either way. He already had 2 kids from his marriage, and frankly, the relationship with them seemed strained. They didn't really like going to see him, there was always some excuse. At the time, I thought it was just the divorce messing things up. Now I think he just wasn't honest about how bad it was. Fast forward a few months, the divorce is final. Cue the hell spiral, as I call it. I've seen it happen to friends before. The post-divorce meltdown. I warned Mark about it, told him to brace himself. But he was adamant. He was gonna be fine. He'd handle it. He's too good for that. I should have known better. Spoiler alert, he wasn't fine. He was totally spiraling. Drinking too much, sleeping too little, moody as hell. I begged him to go back to therapy. He'd been in therapy before we met, during the separation. That was actually one of the things that made me think he was a decent guy, you know? That he was willing to work on himself. I thought, he's a progressive man. Good. Now, he was all I'm fine, therapy is a scam, you don't understand me. It was like talking to a brick wall. I kept telling him not to bottle things up, to talk to me, to anyone. I even suggested he call up some old friends, but he was all I don't have anyone. It's like, dude, you burned all your bridges before you even met me, I can only do so much. I was urging him to reach out to his old friends, but it was like he didn't have those kinds of deep conversations with anyone besides me, and it felt like a lot of pressure. And then, the bomb dropped. One night, he sent me this voice note. He's been going on about the divorce, his kids hating him, feeling like a failure, the usual pity party. And then, out of nowhere, he says, you know, I think I want to have more kids. More kids? Dude, what the actual fuck? I almost choked. My heart literally stopped for a second. I'm on the waiting list for a hysterectomy. I made it clear from the beginning that kids were not on the table. How could he just say that? Like it didn't matter what I wanted? Did he even realize I don't want kids, or was he thinking I can magically change my mind? He did know, since it was one of the first things I clarified with him. And the worst part? He kept texting me as normal, like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just detonated a nuclear bomb in our relationship. I had no idea. I had no freaking clue what to do. How do I even confront this? He practically has no one else to talk to besides me, and I'm the one who can't give him what he wants. Inside my head, the relationship had basically expired, died a slow and painful death. This was it, the end. The next few days were agonizing. I went through the motions, answering Mark's texts, trying to act normal. But inside, I was a mess. On one hand, I felt sorry for him. I knew he was hurting, that he was confused. Part of me wanted to be there for him, to support him through this. But on the other hand, I was furious. How dare he? How dare he completely disregard my feelings, my needs? How dare he make me feel like I wasn't enough? It's like I'm reminding a friend going through a divorce that everything they say is just thoughts, but you never realize until you're directly involved that these thoughts and words have such strong implications. I turned to Reddit, posting an anonymous thread, spilling my guts, and begging for advice. The responses poured in, a mixture of sympathy and tough love. Sounds like you just need to be upfront and honest. Tell him he wants more kids, and you can't give that to him, someone wrote. You've broken up with him in your head, not him breaking up with you. That top comment hit hard. I was just keeping him around because I was terrified of being alone. Another person chimed in. Sounds like you need to break up with him. It is a shame how men tend to end up lonely due to refusing to invest in a social support network, but alas, women can only do so much for men. Break up and let him rely on a therapist to handle this life crisis of his. That comment about social support really resonated with me. I kept encouraging him to reach out to his old friends. The advice was helpful, but it didn't make things any easier. I still had to face Mark. I still had to have the conversation, and I was terrified. What if he tried to say everything I wanted to hear so that I would stay? I couldn't do that to myself. What if this spiral was going to go deeper than I thought? What if these feelings ran so deep it was beyond fixing? Finally, I bit the bullet and asked Mark to meet me. We met at this small coffee shop, the place where we'd had our first date. Looking back, it felt like a lifetime ago. He was late, of course. He looked like hell, his face pale and drawn, the dark circles under his eyes practically purple. Sorry I'm late, he said, slurring his words slightly. Had a rough day. I nodded. I know. We sat in silence for a few minutes. I didn't know where to start. Finally, I took a deep breath and said, Mark, we need to talk. He looked at me, his eyes filled with apprehension. What's wrong? I heard the voice note you sent me, I said. The one where you said you think you want more kids. He didn't say anything, just stared at his coffee. I know you're going through a tough time, I continued, trying to keep my voice steady. I know you're feeling lost. But you have to understand, I can't give you what you want. I can't have children. I know, he said quietly. But, I don't know what to do. I love you, and I don't want to lose you. I love you too, I said. But love isn't always enough. We need to be on the same page. And I don't think we are anymore. It was like I was just having thoughts and saying it. So, this is it? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. This is the end? I nodded. I think so. Mark looked at me, his eyes filled with pain. Can't you give me more time? He asked. Just a little more time to figure things out? I shook my head. I'm sorry, Mark. I can't do that. I already gave you a year, Mark. Why not? He pleaded. Why can't you just give me a chance? I wish he asked this the first time we got together. I looked at him, really looked at him, and I realized something. He didn't get it. He didn't understand what I wanted, what I needed. He just wanted me to stick around until he found some other woman who could give him those kids. The fact that he changed his mind and said he didn't want kids this morning just showed how confused he was. You know I'm on the waiting list for a hysterectomy, right? I said, my voice sharp. He nodded. Yeah, so? I laughed, a bitter, humorless sound. So, you're aware that this essentially means we're over? He frowned. It doesn't have to. We can still see each other until I make up my mind. I almost fell out of my chair. I stared at him, realizing he never actually knew me at all. Anyone who knows me knows I would never put up with this foolishness. I laughed out loud and said, You want me to continue to see you while you decide whether or not you want kids? And then if you do, I should just meekly walk away? Does that sound like that's fair? It sounded so ridiculous even coming out of my mouth. He mumbled, No, but I like being with you and don't want to lose you. He was too invested in what he wanted and never thought of what I wanted. I told him what I'd told a friend, sort out your relationship with the children you have before making new ones, and gave him a book on that subject I happened to have in my bag. He didn't even look at it. I'm sure his family thought I was the horrible one. I stood up and walked out. I left the coffee shop and the tears started flowing. I was going to miss him so much. He kept texting me afterward, pleading, begging, trying to convince me that he'd made a mistake. But I blocked him. I couldn't do it anymore. The following weeks were a blur of loneliness and regret. I missed Mark terribly. I missed his smile, his touch, the way he made me laugh. I missed the feeling of having someone by my side. I enjoyed his company, and he made me feel like a real woman. I tried to fill the void with work, with friends, with hobbies. But nothing seemed to help. The pain was always there, a dull ache in my chest. I had health conditions, and I always told myself that my burden on Mark may be too much, but Mark told me he liked that I challenged him to get back up and about. Then, one evening, I got a call from Alexis, Alice's mother. I hadn't spoken to her since all the drama with Lily. "I'm sorry to bother you," Alexis said. "But I thought you should know." "Know what?" I asked, my heart sinking. "John, he's back with his ex-wife," Alexis said. I froze. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The divorce with his ex-wife seemed so acrimonious, it's hard to believe that they made up. "Are you sure?" I asked, my voice trembling. "No, I'm positive," Alexis said. "I saw them together. They looked very happy." I hung up the phone, and the tears started streaming down my face. I felt like I'd been stabbed in the heart. All those open discussions with Mark just went to waste, so it was all a lie. John never really loved me. He was just using me to fill a void in his life. He went back to his wife the minute he found someone who could give him those kids. It felt like all the therapy he was going to didn't do anything. I felt a wave of anger, pain, and betrayal wash over me. I had trusted him. I had loved him. And he had repaid me with deception and lies. And he left to go back to his horrible kids who I learned had a lot of attitude. But then, something even worse happened. A few weeks later I received a text from an unknown number. "I'm a friend of Alice's," the message read. "I have a secret to tell you." My blood ran cold. I hesitantly replied to the message. How was I supposed to know that this would come after me? The person revealed that Alice had never liked me. She'd always been jealous of me, of my good life, my loving husband, and my successful career. I thought we were best friends. And the most chilling thing of all? Alice had been planning to destroy my life for years. She had used our friendship to get close to John, and she had tried to seduce him. I thought our values aligned with each other, but she wanted to destroy everything. The person said that Alice had succeeded in sleeping with John. And Lily, Alice's daughter, was actually John's child. My world shattered. Everything I had believed, everything I had loved, all of it was a lie. I had been betrayed by my best friend, and by the man I loved more than anything in the world. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to trust. I felt completely alone and lost. I decided to kill myself. I wrote a suicide note, explaining everything that had happened. I apologized to my family and friends for not being strong enough to get through this. I swallowed a bottle of sleeping pills and lay down in bed. I waited for death to come. I woke up in a hospital room. I had been saved. My mother was sitting beside the bed. She was crying, but when she saw me awake, she smiled. "You're awake," she said. "I'm so glad." I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. "I know everything," she said. "I know what you've been through." I looked at her, and the tears started flowing again. "I'm so sorry," she said. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there for you when you needed me most." I hugged my mother, and I cried until I couldn't cry anymore. I had survived, but I knew that my life would never be the same. I had lost too much, and I didn't know if I could ever heal from the scars. I knew I had to try. I had to keep living, for my family and friends, who had always loved and supported me. But I knew this was going to be hard. I would learn to forgive, and I would learn to love myself. I would rebuild my life, from the broken pieces that remained. I didn't know what the future held. But I knew that I would never give up hope. Even if that hope was just a tiny spark in a vast darkness. I would keep living, keep loving, and keep fighting. But there was a lot to rebuild before I could get back to that. But deep down inside, I knew that a part of me had died along with Alice and John. The trust was gone forever, and I don't know what it'll take to rebuild it. I'm a patient with some health conditions, so no matter what, I have to learn to care and rely on myself. And I wasn't sure if that part would ever come back to life. The world is a little too dark for that, I think. I'll always wonder if I could have done something differently, if I could have saved myself, or even saved him. I don't know. I just don't know. And maybe that's the worst part of all. I lost my mom at 10. After 8 years with a cold stepmom, I found out she's my birth mom and the man I call dad isn't my real father. Okay, here we go. Imagine I'm telling you this story over coffee, just letting it all spill out. I swear, sometimes I think my life is a sitcom, a really bad one. I mean, losing my mom when I was only 10, that's already a heavy plot point, right? And then throw in the stepmom, who's basically the antagonist in my personal story arc. It's all just too much. Let me give you some background. Mom passed away when I was 10. Cancer, the classic sob story starter. It still hurts, even 8 years later. It's like a hole in my life that nothing can fill. Dad was a mess, obviously. He's a good guy, just not cut out to be a single parent, especially to a grieving kid. Enter Carol, my stepmom. She came into the picture a couple of years after Mom died. She's nice enough, I guess, civil. We can be in the same room without clawing each other's eyes out, which I guess is progress. But close? Absolutely not. We're about as close as two strangers sharing a bus seat. She's just weird. Like she's trying to compete with my mom. It's the strangest thing. It's not like my mom is even here. It's not like she can come back and defend her title of mom. But Carol acts like it's a competition anyway. She gets all snippy when I talk about mom, or when I wear anything that belonged to her. The worst is my necklace. It's an old thing, just a simple silver chain with a little heart pendant. But it was Mom's. She gave it to me right before she passed. It's the only thing I have that feels like a real, tangible connection to her. So, yeah, I wear it basically every day. It's like a little piece of her is always with me. Carol hates it. She'll make little comments, like, "Are you still wearing that old thing?" Or, "Don't you think it's time you got something a little more modern?" It's like she wants me to take it off, to hide it away, to pretend my mom never existed. And that's what gets me. It's not just about the necklace. It's about the whole thing. It's about her trying to erase my mom, to rewrite my history. And I can't stand it. So, a few nights ago, we were out for dinner. It was the whole crew. Dad, Carol, me, and Carol's parents. Her mom is, well, she's a piece of work. Picture the stereotypical overbearing mother-in-law, and you're pretty close. She's always got something to say, some opinion to offer, some way to make me feel like I'm not good enough. Anyway, we were sitting around the table, making small talk, when Carol's mom noticed my necklace. "Oh, that's a pretty necklace," she said, all sugary sweet. "Where did you get it?" I sighed inwardly. "Here we go." "It was my mom's," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. "She gave it to me before she passed. I wear it every day." And then Carol just lost it. "Well, technically I'm your mom now," she said, cutting in with this saccharine smile. "I've done more mothering in the last 8 years than she did in 10. I swear, the whole table went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Even Carol's mom looked shocked, and that woman has seen and said it all. My dad just stared at his plate, like he was trying to become invisible. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was the years of simmering resentment finally boiling over. Maybe it was the look on Carol's face, that smug, self-satisfied look that just made me want to scream. Maybe it was the fact that she said it in front of her parents, like she was trying to score points with them. Whatever it was, I snapped. I just laughed, this short, sharp, humorless laugh. "If you think being a mom is about trying to erase the actual one," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm, "then yeah, you've been amazing." Her face. Oh man, I wish I had a picture. It was like she'd been slapped. Her mom gasped, a loud, dramatic gasp that could have shattered glass. My dad just kept staring at his plate, like he was hoping the earth would swallow him whole. He cleared his throat. "That wasn't appropriate, you need to apologize." But I didn't. I said I was tired of her acting like my mom never existed, and I wasn't going to play along anymore. I was finished. The rest of the dinner was a disaster. Nobody said a word. Carol just glared at me, her face a mask of fury. Her parents looked like they wanted to crawl under the table and die. My dad just kept sighing and shaking his head. As soon as we got home, Dad laid into me. He said I was disrespectful, that I had humiliated Carol in front of her family, that I needed to apologize. He said I need to be the bigger person, because she's just trying to connect. Connect? Seriously? To me, that didn't feel like connection. That felt like erasure. It felt like she was trying to replace my mom, to take her place in my life, to pretend she was the only one who ever mattered. I refused to apologize. I said I meant every word. I said I was tired of her trying to rewrite my history. Now my stepmom is barely speaking to me. She gives me the silent treatment which, honestly, is kind of a relief. It's a lot more peaceful around here when she's not talking. But my dad, he's been on my case constantly. He keeps telling me I need to apologize, that I'm hurting Carol's feelings, that I'm making things difficult for him. He acts like I'm the one who started this whole thing, like I'm the one who's being unreasonable. I almost gave in, to be honest. I almost apologized, just to shut him up. But then I thought about my mom, about her memory, about how much it means to me to keep her alive in my heart. And I knew I couldn't do it. I couldn't apologize for defending her. But here's the thing, lately, there's been a few things that have been happening that made me question more and more who I was living with. First, there's the little things. My mom's favorite recipes mysteriously disappeared from the recipe box I had stored in the attic. All of them. I'd know my mom's cooking anywhere, and those recipes were all that was left of her cooking, but gone. Then, there are the pictures. I found that a lot of the pictures of mom and dad were no longer on display. If they were, Carol would pop up to replace them. It's like mom never existed in the first place. But that brings me to the biggest problem. My mom's death. It was always a sensitive topic, and I never pressed my dad for details, because he gets sad. But it felt like time to ask a question, so I did. Dad, I said to him, what exactly happened to mom? I want to know the details. I deserve to know. I'm an adult now. I've told you before. She had cancer, and she eventually succumbed to it. It was tragic. End of story. He told me. No, tell me more. I pleaded. When was she diagnosed? What kind of cancer? Did she go to the hospital? My dad suddenly clammed up. He acted very weird. Why do you need to know? It was a long time ago. She got diagnosed a while before you were born, went to the hospital, and got treatment. Before I was born. But mom didn't get sick till I was 10? Did she have it a second time? I pressed on. My dad's face went pale. She didn't get cancer a second time. He told me. But she was sick for years, right? In and out of treatment, right? I asked again. That's when the bombshell dropped. Carol has cancer. Your mom died in a car crash. He told me. My face went white as a ghost. I just blanked out. But if my mom died in a car crash, then there was a huge hole that didn't add up. And it's right when I'm about to confront Carol that something weirder happens. I'm rummaging through one of the cabinets to get some pots and pans when a box falls out. I pick it up and realize that this is my mom's box of belongings. All the mementos and keepsakes that were hidden in here. I open it up and immediately start to tear up. This is one of the last memories I have of my mother. I remember seeing her make this and give it to me. That's when I look down and see something more. There are pictures and letters in there that weren't there before. They were clearly from Carol. I pick them up and read them. And what I read makes me want to vomit. The letters were all addressed to my dad, but they were all about mom. And what they said was absolutely disgusting. Carol had been having an affair with my dad when mom was alive. And she was pregnant? The pictures were of Carol and my dad, laughing and smiling. And in one of them Carol was holding a baby. It couldn't be. Could it? I did the math in my head. Carol came into the picture a couple of years after mom passed away. But if she had a baby when mom was still alive. That's when it hit me. Carol isn't just my stepmom. She's my half-sister. I felt like I was going to pass out. Everything suddenly made sense. The weird vibe, the competition with my mom, the snippy comments, the erasure. It all pointed to one thing. Carol isn't just trying to replace my mom. She's trying to erase her so she can take her place as my dad's number one. But why? What would motivate someone to do something so cruel? That's when I looked down and saw something else in the box. A letter. It was addressed to me. I picked it up and read it. And what I read made my blood run cold. The letter was from my mom. It was written a few weeks before she died. And it revealed a secret that would change everything. My darling, name, the letter began. If you're reading this, it means I'm gone. And there's something I need to tell you before I go. Something that I've been keeping from you for a long time. Your father, he's not your biological father. I blinked. I read the sentence again. And again. It couldn't be true, it just couldn't be. I know this is a lot to take in, the letter continued. But it's the truth. Your father, the man you've known your whole life, isn't your real dad. Your real dad is Carol's father. I gasped. It all made sense now. The weird connection I felt to Carol's parents, the way her mom seemed to favor me over Carol. It was all because they knew the truth. They knew that I was their granddaughter. But why didn't my mom ever tell me? I never told you because I was afraid, the letter explained. I was afraid of what would happen if you found out. I was afraid of losing you. I was afraid of hurting your father. He loves you so much, and I didn't want to take that away from him. But now that I'm gone, I can't keep this secret any longer. You deserve to know the truth. You deserve to know who you really are. I love you more than anything in the world. And I hope that one day, you'll be able to forgive me for keeping this from you. I burst into tears. I couldn't believe it. My whole life had been a lie. The man I thought was my father wasn't my father at all. And my stepmom was actually my half-sister, and her father was my real dad. It was too much to take in. My head was spinning. My heart was breaking. That's when Carol walked into the room. She took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. I didn't say anything. I just held up the letter. Carol took it and read it, and as she read, her face drained of all color. "How did you find this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "It was in the box," I said, my voice trembling. "The box with all my mom's stuff. I found it. It all makes sense now. You were jealous. You were pregnant with me. And then there's Mom. What did you do?" I just couldn't contain my anger. I didn't mean for any of this to happen," she said, her voice cracking. "What do you mean you didn't mean for any of this to happen?" I screamed. "You had an affair with my dad while my mom was alive. You got pregnant with me. And then you came into my life and tried to erase her. How could you do that? Did you kill my mom?" "It wasn't like that," she protested. I started to walk out. "I'm done, I'm gone." "Wait, don't go. Don't you want to hear my side?" she said and grabbed my arm. I twisted it around and kicked her in the stomach. I pushed her as hard as I could and walked out the door. I have no idea where I'm going, what I'm doing, but I can never go back. I used to be invisible in the family, always compared to my golden sister, even though I was the one carrying everything. I'm not sure this story is real. Maybe it's just a distorted memory, or a version my mind made up to make things easier to accept. Or maybe it's a story that's been told so many times that even I can no longer tell what's true and what's imagined. Either way, this is my story. And I'm going to tell it the way I remember it. Blood is thicker than water? Bullshit. In my experience, blood is just a sticky, messy substance that stains everything it touches. And family. Family is just a group of people who are legally obligated to make you feel like crap. Especially when you're the failure. My name's Nathan, and for as long as I can remember, I've been disappointed. The underachiever. The one who never quite measured up. And my mom? She made damn sure I never forgot it. See, I have a sister, Mary. And Mary was perfect. Golden Child doesn't even begin to cover it. She was the valedictorian, the Ivy League grad, the corporate climber. Everything she touched turned to gold, or at least that's how it appeared. Mom practically worshipped her. Showered her with praise, bragged about her to anyone who would listen, and constantly used her as a yardstick to measure my own worth. And I always came up short. It wasn't like I was a deadbeat or anything. I had a good job in IT. Steady, reliable, paid the bills. I even managed to squirrel away a decent amount of savings. But that wasn't good enough. It wasn't prestigious enough. It wasn't merry enough. And the constant comparisons drove me absolutely insane. Why can't you be more like your sister? Mary would never do that. You should take a page out of Mary's book. I swear, I heard those phrases so many times, I started seeing Mary's face every time I closed my eyes. What really ate at me wasn't just the constant put-downs, it was the blatant hypocrisy. I was the one who was always there, the one who quietly picked up the pieces, the one who actually kept the family afloat. See, Mary's high-flying career might have looked impressive on paper, but it didn't exactly translate into cold, hard cash. She was all about appearances, flaunting her expensive clothes, her fancy car, her swanky condo. But beneath the surface, she was a financial train wreck. And who do you think bailed her out every time? Me. I'd been covering Mom's bills for years. Mortgage payments, unexpected expenses, the never-ending parade of emergencies. I did it out of guilt, out of a misplaced sense of obligation. But did I ever get a thank you? Did I ever get a pat on the back? Hell no. I was just the ATM, the reliable source of funds that could always be counted on. And Mary. She was the star, the one who deserved all the praise, even though she was basically living off my hard work. And then came the day I finally snapped. Mom was at it again, comparing me to Mary, telling me how jealous I was of her success. I'd had enough. Years of resentment, years of feeling invisible, Years of being treated like crap finally boiled over. "You're just jealous of your sister. She's the successful one, you'll never be like her," she said, her voice dripping with that condescending tone that always made my blood boil. I laughed, a short, sharp, humorless sound. "Good," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Then she can pay your bills." And just like that, the dam broke. I watched with a perverse sense of satisfaction as my mother's face twisted with anger. But I didn't stop there. I knew I was crossing a line, that I was about to unleash a storm of epic proportions. But I didn't care. I was done. "Why don't you call her right now, Mom?" I said, pushing my chair back from the table. "Ask her to cover the mortgage this month. Since I'm so useless, I guess you won't need my help anymore." My mother's eyes narrowed with suspicion. She knew I was serious. She knew I was about to pull the plug on her comfortable little existence. But her pride wouldn't let her back down. She snatched her phone off the table, her fingers trembling slightly. "Fine," she huffed. "She actually cares about this family, unlike you." She dialed Mary's number, put the phone on speaker, and waited. I could practically feel the tension in the room, thick and heavy. Mary answered on the third ring, her voice all sweetness and light. "Hey Mom, what's up?" "Honey," my mother said, her voice laced with that cloying, manipulative tone she used to get her way. "Nathan has decided he's done helping. I need help covering the mortgage this month." There was a brief pause, a moment of stunned silence. Then, Mary's voice changed. It lost that sugary sweetness, replaced by a sharp, clipped tone that I knew all too well. "Mom, I already told you," she said, her voice laced with thinly veiled irritation. "I can't right now. I just put a down payment on the new condo. You know how it is?" "But honey," my mother pleaded, her voice cracking slightly. "I don't know what to do. The mortgage is due, and "Mom, I can't," Mary said, her voice firm, bordering on dismissive. "I just don't have the money. You'll figure it out." And that was it. Just like that, the golden child had crumbled. The facade of perfection had shattered, revealing the hollow shell beneath. My mother's face was a study in disbelief. She stared at the phone, her mouth agape, like she couldn't comprehend what she was hearing. The realization that her precious Mary couldn't, or wouldn't help her was a blow she hadn't seen coming. I decided to twist the knife a little further. "Wait a minute," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "I thought Mary was the successful one. Shouldn't this be easy for you? What happened to all that big corporate money?" Mary's sharp intake of breath was almost audible over the speakerphone. "That's none of your business, Nathan," she snapped, all pretense of civility gone. "Oh, I think it is," I retorted. "Especially since I'm the one who's been bailing you both out for years." The silence that followed was deafening. I could feel my mother's eyes boring into me, a mixture of anger and dawning horror on her face. "You don't understand," Mary finally said, her voice tight and strained. "My expenses are insane. The condo, the car payments, the credit cards, it all adds up. So, the lavish life ain't so lavish after all, huh?" I said, leaning back in my chair and relishing the moment. The rest of the conversation was a blur. More excuses from Mary, more pleading from my mother, and more snide remarks from me. Finally, Mary hung up, leaving my mother staring at her phone in stunned silence. "Well," I said, standing up and grabbing my jacket. "Looks like you bet on the wrong horse, Mom." I turned to leave, but my mother grabbed my arm, her grip surprisingly strong. "You can't just walk away from this, Nathan," she said, her voice shaking. I need your help." I looked down at her hand on my arm, then back up at her face. For the first time, I saw a flicker of something genuine in her eyes. Not love, not affection, but fear. "I thought Mary was handling it," I said, my voice cold and indifferent. "She will," she whispered. "She just needs time." It was the same empty promise she'd been making me for years. I raised an eyebrow. "And in the meantime? What happens to you?" Her hand tightened on my arm, her knuckles white. "You're my son, Nathan," she said, her voice pleading. "You can't let me lose everything." It was then I saw all the years of manipulation, all the years she forced me to follow her strings. It wasn't going to work. I pried her fingers off my arm. "You made your choice, Mom," I said, my voice as hard as stone. "Now you get to live with it." And with that, I walked out the door. I didn't look back. As I drove away, I felt a strange mix of emotions swirling inside me. Relief, anger, sadness, and something else. Something dark and unfamiliar. Was I enjoying this a little too much? Over the next few weeks, I did my best to ignore the chaos that was unfolding back home. My mother bombarded me with calls and texts, ranging from desperate pleas to angry accusations. Mary went radio silent, probably too busy trying to keep her own life from imploding to worry about her mom. But I didn't waver. I knew I was doing the right thing. I had spent too long sacrificing my own happiness for the sake of a family that didn't appreciate me. It was time to put myself first. And then came the call that changed everything. It was Alexis, a family friend. She is one of the few friends my mom kept up with. "Nathan," she said, her voice grave. "I think you need to know what's happening with your mother." I sighed. "What now? Did she finally get evicted?" "It's worse than that, Nathan," Alexis said. "She's desperate. She's been calling everyone, begging for money. She's even been trying to sell off some of the family heirlooms." The news hit me harder than I expected. This was spiraling further than I wanted. So Alexis continued and then said, "Mary, that's another story." "Alexis, please just get to the point." I replied, my voice tight with growing anxiety. "I heard from a little birdie that Mary has loan sharks on her tail. Word of advice? Don't go near the action. You don't want to get involved. Goodbye." The phone call then hung up. The news stopped me in my tracks. I started piecing together all the things Alexis and Mom have been saying over the years. The fact that Mary was so tight on money, and how much she flaunted being high class. I decided to leave things as is. I was going to hide. I tried to brush it off, to tell myself it wasn't my problem. But I couldn't shake the feeling that things were spiraling out of control. I kept thinking about my mother, alone and desperate, and Mary who had done things that were wrong. She has put herself in great danger. My heart grew heavier, and there was nothing I could do. I decided to protect myself. I started diverting large sums of money into offshore accounts, making sure that no one, especially Mary, would be able to find them. Since they were out to use me as an ATM, I wasn't going to be used. That way I was free to do whatever I wanted. The guilt at the selfishness barely pricked my conscience. It was survival. A week later, I received a call from Alexis, again concerned. I picked it up immediately this time. "Nathan, I hate to be the one to call, but it's important." My stomach dropped. "Please tell me Mom isn't going to do something stupid," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "It's about Mary. No one can get a hold of her. She missed dinner with her co-workers who called to check on her since she hasn't been seen at work in the past week." I paused. In the past week, I've seen no calls or texts. It's odd, I thought, but at the same time, it wasn't. I was one of the few people Mom and Mary contacted. What did I know? "Is this about loan sharks?" I responded, dread creeping into my voice. "I don't know, but this seems to spell disaster," Alexis stated, her voice shaking. "All right, I'll head to her condo and check things out," I replied, hesitant to get involved. Each step closer felt like stepping into quicksand, knowing it could drag me under too. Part of me screamed at me to stay away, that I had done enough. But the other part, the part that still clung to some twisted sense of family, wouldn't let me turn away. As I drove to Mary's condo, I couldn't help but feel a sense of dread. The sky had turned gray, and the wind was picking up, as if foreshadowing what was to come. I thought about turning around, to stay away, but I was so close, and part of me needed to know what had happened. The guilt weighed heavily on me. I pulled into the parking lot of Mary's condo, and walked up to the door. As I went to knock on the door, it swung open, revealing a scene that would forever be etched in my nightmares. The air was thick with a strong, metallic scent. The living room furniture had been flipped and shattered. Broken pieces of porcelain were spread across the floor. I followed the red stains across the room and toward the bedroom. As I got to the door, I peeked in and immediately ran to a trash can to puke. What I saw is something I will never forget. Mary was spread across the bed with slashes all across her chest. Her condo had been completely ransacked and robbed. I was the first to the scene. She lay like a discarded doll, her perfect image shattered, her life brutally extinguished. I bolted out of the condo, gasping for air. I stumbled to a nearby trash can and emptied my stomach, the bile burning my throat. When I could finally stand, I pulled out my phone and dialed 911, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the device. The authorities swarmed the scene. The police, the paramedics, the crime scene investigators, a cacophony of sirens and flashing lights that only amplified the horror of what I had just witnessed. I was questioned for hours, grilled about my relationship with Mary, my knowledge of her debts, her associations. It became clear that I was one of the last people Mary had contacted. The detectives saw me as a suspect. Finally, exhausted and traumatized, I was released. They warned me not to leave town, that I was still a person of interest. I didn't care. I just wanted to go home, to scrub the images from my mind, to forget everything that had happened. But I knew that was impossible. I was forever tainted. As I headed back to my car, a chilling realization began to creep into my mind. This wasn't just about the money. It was about something more. Something darker. Something that reached back into our twisted family history, our poisonous dynamic. Had my refusal to help set this chain of events in motion? Was I responsible for Mary's death? It was 3 a.m. when I received a call from an unknown number. I hesitated, but the same sense of dread that had plagued me all day compelled me to pick up. The voice on the other end was distorted, almost robotic. It sent shivers down my spine. Thank you for doing what you did. You have set your mom free. I hope you live a long life. Then the call immediately ended. My blood ran cold. Those words? They sounded like a threat. A promise. A confession. I checked my bank account and saw that all of my savings and wealth had been transferred to an offshore account. An account of my own. What is going on? What have I done? The dread was creeping in. Was I next? I received a call in the morning to attend Mary's funeral, and I attended with a heavy heart. The call happened to be from Mom. I picked my mom up, and she's a husk of what she once was. There was no emotion. No feeling. We sat in the pews without expression. The words and prayers of the speakers did nothing to ease the atmosphere. I was getting stares and glares from all members of the family. I wasn't the golden child, and never will be. We drove home in silence, and it was a silence that I was going to have to carry with me for the rest of my life. As the days turned into weeks, I felt so empty. Although my life was financially stable and free from my family, I have no one to turn to. I have blood on my hands, whether direct or not. I receive a call from the police, and they say that they are closing the case for Mary, as they suspect it to be someone out of state. They give me their condolences and then hang up. I can never tell Mom about that. She's too fragile, and it may kill her. A year has passed. I received a call, and it's from an unknown number. I picked up, and I heard my mom tell me these words. You're free. Finally, both of us are free. It was the only choice for me to take. Please don't find me. I tried to respond with the words, what do you mean? But the call immediately ended. I tried calling again, but the line went dead. It was then I realized that those are the words of someone who was on the brink. Of someone who had nothing left. The finality of these words was all but telling. I contacted Alexis about my mom, and we searched all day and all night looking for her. We posted photos. We called the authorities. And nothing. 3 days later, I received a call from the local police. A body has been found in the reservoir. I had to go to identify the body, and it was my mother. She was gone. She had weighed herself and jumped in the reservoir. I'm left with nothing. I didn't want this. I wanted to be free of them, but not for them to perish. I wanted to escape, not destroy. I sold everything and decided to move. I leave this place behind with the horrifying memories that have occurred. The offshore account? I left it untouched. It was tainted money, blood money, and I wanted nothing to do with it. I gave the details to Alexis. She could donate it, burn it, do whatever she wanted with it. I just wanted it gone. My childhood crush rejected me for my sister, who turned him down. When we started dating, she returned and confessed her feelings. Honestly, I never thought Victor would love me. From childhood, I lived in the shadow of my older sister, Amal. She was beautiful, intelligent, and outgoing, loved by everyone. And me? Just a shy, quiet, and somewhat unremarkable kid. Every time our families gathered, I would only dare to look at Victor from afar. He was always by Amal's side, his eyes full of love. Everyone knew Victor liked my sister, and so did I. I'll always remember the day Victor confessed his love to Amal for the first time when they were both 15. I hid in my room, my heart pounding, both excited and afraid. I knew she would reject him, because she always saw Victor as a close friend. But I still couldn't stop myself from hoping that maybe, just maybe, she would give him a chance. And then, as I predicted, she rejected him. I heard Victor's disappointment, but he still tried to appear strong. She hugged him, saying she didn't want to lose their beautiful friendship. I knew, at that moment, my heart shattered into a million pieces. In the years that followed, I always tried to avoid Victor. Every time I saw him, I felt a sharp pain in my heart. I knew I didn't have a chance, and I didn't want to be a third wheel ruining their friendship. I just quietly watched him from afar, silently wishing him happiness. When we were 18, Victor confessed his love to Amal again. This time, I was prepared for it. I knew she would reject him, because she wanted freedom. She wanted to explore the world. She said she wanted to go to college in Los Angeles, where she could experience everything without worrying about relationships. I was shocked when I heard her say that. I didn't expect her to have such bold thoughts. I knew she wanted to live a full life, without regrets. But I also knew that meant Victor would have to endure another heartbreak. I'll always remember the night before Amal left for Los Angeles. Both families gathered to see her off. Victor sat quietly in a corner, his eyes sad. I knew he was hurting, but he didn't say anything. I wanted to go to him, comfort him, but I didn't have the courage. After Amal left, Victor became quieter. He spoke less, smiled less, and always seemed a little melancholy. I knew he was trying to get over the pain, but I didn't know how to help him. A year later, I decided to apply to the university in Pasadena, where Victor was studying. I didn't know why I did it. Maybe I wanted to be near him, even if just as a friend. Or maybe I wanted to prove to him that I could also be successful, that I was worthy of his love. On my first day at school, I was surprised to see Victor. He had changed a lot. He had become stronger, more confident, and more attractive. I felt my heart beat faster when I saw him. He was also very surprised to see me. He asked me why I was here, and I just shrugged. I didn't dare tell him the truth, that I had always loved him and I wanted to be with him. He invited me to take a tour of the campus and I agreed immediately. We had a wonderful afternoon together. We talked, laughed, and shared our thoughts. I felt like I had known him for a long time. After that day, we started hanging out together more often. We studied together, exercised together, and explored new things together. I felt myself falling in love with him. I realized that Victor was not just a friend, but also a teacher, a companion, and a soulmate. He was always there for me, encouraging me, and helping me overcome the difficulties in my life. He was the only one who understood me, and I understood him too. 2 years later, we decided to start dating. I was very happy when he told me he loved me. I knew that he had once loved Amal, and maybe he still had feelings for her. But I believed that, over time, he would love me wholeheartedly. I always tried to be a good girlfriend, always supporting him, and always being there for him. I wanted to show him that I was worthy of his love. After graduation, Victor decided to stay in Pasadena to work. I also applied to work for the same company, but in a different department. We wanted to have a stable life, and we wanted to build a happy family. 2 years passed, and our life was very peaceful and happy. We loved each other, respected each other, and always supported each other in everything. I felt like I was the luckiest woman in the world. One beautiful day, Victor told me that he wanted to propose to me. I was very touched when I heard him say that. I knew that he had thought very carefully before making this decision. I also knew that he loved me wholeheartedly. Victor wanted to propose to me in front of both of our families. He had prepared a romantic evening, with flowers, candles, and music. I was very excited waiting for this important moment. But then, everything didn't go as I expected. That day, Victor told me that he had to go home to his parents' house for urgent business. He told me to stay home, and come with him on Saturday. I was a little suspicious, but still agreed. When I arrived at his house, I saw Amal there. I was very surprised to see her. I didn't expect her to return to the country at this time. Dinner that night was very normal. Everyone talked, laughed, and ate. But I felt an underlying tension between Victor and Amal. And then, at the moment Victor wanted to announce his proposal, Amal interrupted. She said she wanted to say something important. She said that she loved Victor, and she wanted to be his girlfriend. I was shocked when I heard her say that. I didn't expect her to do that. I knew that she had rejected Victor before, and I believed that she no longer loved him. Everyone in the family was very surprised. My mom and Amal's mom clapped and congratulated them, but I knew that Victor was not happy. Victor tried to explain to Amal, but she refused to listen. She said that everyone knew that Victor loved her, and she was just giving him a chance. Victor was very angry. He said that he would never want to date someone like her. He said that he would never be with someone who had been with many other men. Amal was very hurt when she heard Victor say that. She ran out of the house, crying. My mom and Amal's mom scolded Victor, saying that he was too cruel to her. Victor tried to explain to everyone, but no one would listen to him. My mom said that he was only with me to get revenge on Amal. My dad also said that he had never told them about our relationship, and they didn't believe that he loved me wholeheartedly. I was very hurt when I heard those words. I knew that my family didn't accept our relationship. I also knew that Amal would never let Victor go. I cried a lot that night. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I should continue this relationship or not. The next morning, Victor came to find me. He said that he wanted to propose to me immediately. He said that he loved me, and he wanted to spend the rest of his life with me. I was very touched when I heard him say that. I knew that he was trying to prove to his family that he loved me wholeheartedly. I also knew that he was trying to protect me from Amal. I accepted his proposal. I knew that our life wouldn't be easy, but I believed that we could overcome any difficulties if we loved each other wholeheartedly. We went to see my parents to talk. But things got worse. My dad and Victor argued, and eventually they fought. The police came and arrested both of them. I was very scared when I saw Victor being arrested. I knew that he was innocent, but I couldn't do anything to help him. After Victor was released, we went to his parents' house to talk. But Amal was there. She attacked me, because she didn't want me to marry Victor. Her mother also kicked me out of the house. I was very hurt when I was rejected by both families. I felt like I was being turned against by the whole world. But Victor was always there for me. He hugged me, comforted me, and said that he would never leave me. He said that he loved me, and he wanted to spend the rest of his life with me. I decided to leave Pasadena and start a new life somewhere else. I wanted to get away from both families, and I wanted to have a space of my own to build my happiness. Victor agreed with my decision. He said that he would follow me anywhere. He said that he loved me, and he wanted to spend the rest of his life with me. We got married in a small ceremony, only close friends attended. We promised each other that we would love each other, respect each other, and always support each other in everything. After we got married, we moved to a small town in Northern California. We found good jobs, and we bought a small house. We lived a peaceful and happy life. A year later, I got pregnant. We were very happy when we heard this news. We knew that we would be good parents. When I was a few months pregnant, Victor received a call from his dad. He said that Amal had been discovered to have been lying about everything. She had faked messages, pretended to go to college, and caused many other problems. I was very shocked when I heard this news. I didn't expect Amal to do that. I knew that she had always been jealous of me, but I didn't expect her to be able to hurt me like that. Victor's dad also said that Amal had been expelled from school, banned from flying, and was having many difficulties in her life. I felt sorry for her, but I also felt lucky that I had escaped from her. After hearing this news, I decided to forgive Amal. I knew that she had done many wrong things, but I believed that she had regretted them. I also believed that she deserved a second chance. I called Amal and told her that I forgave her. I also said that I hoped she could find happiness in her life. Amal was very touched when she heard me say that. She cried and apologized to me. She said that she had been wrong to try to destroy my happiness. I told her that it was okay, and I hoped she could forget the past and start a new life. After that call, I felt much lighter. I knew that I had done the right thing. I also knew that I would never regret my decision. And then, the day my child was born came. It was a beautiful, healthy baby girl. Victor and I named her Lily. Since having a child, my life has become more meaningful than ever. I love my child, and I will do everything to protect her. Victor and I still live happily together. We love each other, respect each other, and always support each other in everything. We have overcome many difficulties, and we have proven to everyone that our love is genuine. I know that our life won't always be easy, but I believe that we can overcome any challenges if we love each other wholeheartedly. I am Haley, and I am the happiest woman in the world. I have a wonderful husband, a beautiful daughter, and a peaceful life. I don't need anything else. And whether my parents come to the wedding or not, it doesn't matter anymore. I have Victor and my baby girl by my side. That's all I need. I supported my family financially, and after discovering I was pregnant on vacation, I decided to keep the baby despite my family's opposition. Let's be real, on paper, my life looked Instagram perfect. At 32, I was killing it as a senior product manager at a fintech startup here in Boston. Years of hustle had paid off, and last year, that glorious six-figure salary finally materialized. The condo downtown? Floor-to-ceiling windows, amazing views. My BMW? Nothing crazy, just enough to make me grin when I hit the gas. But behind the carefully curated facade, things were complicated. It all boiled down to one word: family. More specifically, my financial responsibility for my family. My parents, sweetest people in the world, but terrible with money. Dad's chronic back issues had sidelined him, and the mortgage payments were crushing them. Mom, bless her heart, had this way of making you feel utterly guilty if you didn't help. After all we sacrificed to put you through college, Lauren. So, yeah, I took over the mortgage, the utilities, the whole shebang. Then there was Megan, my younger sister. Freelance graphic designer, bursting with talent but perpetually broke. The cost of living in this city is insane, and her gigs were, well, sporadic. When she and her fiancé, Jake, found their dream apartment last year, guess who stepped in to cover the rent? It was manageable, thanks to my salary, but those monthly expenses definitely put a dent in my designer handbag fund. Our family dynamic? Rock solid. Every other Sunday, we'd gather at my parents' place. Mom's lasagna was legendary, Dad would share the latest neighborhood gossip, and Megan would showcase her newest design projects. It was predictable, comforting, almost ritualistic. And then I went to Costa Rica. It was supposed to be a no-brainer vacation. I'd been burning the candle at both ends with a massive platform launch. My boss, David, practically shoved me out the door. I booked a beachfront resort, picturing myself lost in novels and sipping fruity cocktails. Zero ambition required. That's where I met him. Mike. Mid-30s, ruggedly handsome. He was staying at the same resort, also traveling solo. The cliché happened. We met at the hotel bar. "Is this seat taken?" he asked, gesturing to the empty stool beside me. Dark hair, a hint of gray at the temples, laugh lines etched around his eyes. Not movie star gorgeous, but with this warm, inviting charm. One drink led to three. We talked about everything, our jobs, he was an architect from Seattle, our favorite books, our travel adventures. By the end of the night, we were strolling along the beach, stars overhead. We spent the next 2 weeks exploring the rainforest, snorkeling in turquoise waters, and, yes, sharing a hotel room. It was intense, exhilarating, but not love. We were two adults enjoying each other's company, fully aware that it had an expiration date. We said goodbye with a kiss, promised nothing, and went our separate ways. I didn't even get his last name. Seemed like a lifetime ago now. Back in Boston, I threw myself back into work, trying to bury those 2 weeks under a mountain of spreadsheets and deadlines. Then, 3 weeks after my return, the morning sickness hit. At first, I brushed it off as stress. Then, my period was MIA. The explanation, chillingly obvious, slapped me in the face. A pregnancy test, bought in a frantic rush after work. My hands were trembling as I waited in my bathroom. 2 pink lines. Repeat the next morning. Same result. Pregnant. At 32. From a vacation fling with a man I barely knew. This wasn't my plan. This wasn't how my story was supposed to go. For days, I functioned on autopilot, a zombie at work. My brain was a battlefield of options. Termination was the practical choice, the responsible choice. I could try to find Mike, but how? Was I really going to track down a one-night stand and turn him into a father? Then there was the terrifying alternative. I could do this alone. But strangely, as the initial shock wore off, a warmth began to spread through me. Maybe, just maybe, this wasn't a disaster. I had a good job, financial security, a great apartment. I could provide for a child. And while motherhood hadn't exactly been on my 5-year plan, I realized I didn't want to give up this chance. By the time Sunday dinner rolled around, my decision was made. I was keeping the baby. Now, I just had to tell my family. The drive to my parents' place was an exercise in mental gymnastics. I rehearsed my speech. I'm 32, financially stable, and perfectly capable of raising a child on my own. This is my choice. But my stomach was churning as I pulled into their driveway. Mom greeted me with a hug. "You're late," she scolded, ever the matriarch. "Dinner's almost ready." We settled around the table, the usual routine of passing dishes and making small talk. I barely touched my lasagna, waiting for the right moment. Dessert arrived, and I took a deep breath. "I have something to tell you all," I announced, my voice steadier than I felt. 3 pairs of eyes locked on me. "I'm pregnant. About 7 weeks along." The silence was deafening. Mom's fork clattered against her plate. Dad froze, his coffee cup suspended halfway to his mouth. Megan's eyes widened. "But, who's the father?" I explained about Mike, the vacation fling, the lack of contact information. "So some random guy knocked you up and disappeared?" Megan's tone was sharp. "He didn't disappear," I corrected. "We both agreed it was just a vacation thing." "Lauren," Mom said slowly. "Have you considered your options?" I knew what she meant. "I've thought about it a lot," I replied. "I'm keeping the baby." Dad, who had been silent until now, shook his head. "Lauren, think about what you're saying. You're 32, single, with a demanding career. This isn't the time to have a child. Especially not one from this situation." "Your father's right," Mom chimed in. You should get rid of it before it complicates your life. I stared at them, stunned. I'd expected questions, concerns, maybe even disappointment. But this? This immediate push for termination? What about the father's medical history? Megan asked. You don't know anything about him. What if the baby has problems? What if there's something genetically wrong? The baby, I said, emphasizing each word, is going to be fine. You can't know that, Mom argued. Lauren, be sensible, Dad added. This isn't how you planned your life. I stood up, pushing my chair back. I've made my decision. I'm having this baby. With or without your support. I fled, tears blurring my vision. They'll call, I told myself as I drove home. They'll calm down. They'll come around once they've had time to process the news. The next morning my phone rang. It was Mom. Lauren, honey. Her voice was contrite. I'm sorry about last night. We were just shocked. You told me to abort my baby. We were concerned, that's all. But you're right, it's your decision. Let's forget about what happened and move forward. I hesitated, then sighed. Okay, Mom. Good. So, we'll see you at Sunday dinner next week? Yeah, I said. I'll be there. But as I hung up, I couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted in our relationship. And, as I would soon discover, I was right. The following weeks were brutal. Morning sickness was no joke. It wasn't just in the morning, I was nauseous all day, barely able to keep anything down. After 2 weeks of struggling at work, my boss, David, called me into his office. Lauren, I'm concerned, David said, leaning forward in his chair. You're not yourself lately. Your team has noticed too. I hadn't planned to tell anyone at work yet, but the genuine concern in his eyes broke my resolve. I explained my situation. I see, he said, nodding slowly. Well, congratulations are in order then. You need to take care of yourself. Why don't you take some time off? I can't, I protested. I have projects to manage, clients depending on me. The projects will be here when you get back. Take a few weeks of sick leave if you need to, but get some rest. Eventually, I agreed. With my savings, I could afford a few weeks without the additional bonuses and overtime pay. But as I was calculating my leave, a sobering thought hit me. My family's financial needs wouldn't take a break just because I was pregnant. Mom and Megan visited regularly during my leave. They'd bring groceries or homemade soup, but there was always an undercurrent to their concern. Still feeling so sick? Mom would say, fluffing my pillows. If only you'd listened to us, you wouldn't be suffering like this. It'll all be worth it when it's over. Megan was more direct. I don't know how you're going to manage alone. Babies are expensive and demanding. And what about all your other responsibilities? I knew exactly what she meant by other responsibilities. One afternoon, as Mom was fixing tea in my kitchen, she hesitantly brought up finances. Lauren, your father and I were wondering about the mortgage payment for next month. Don't worry, I assured her. I've set up automatic transfers. I can still help with the bills. Her relief was palpable. Oh, thank goodness. She hugged me tightly. You're such a good daughter. As she left that day, I couldn't help wondering if her concern was genuinely for me, or for the financial support I provided. But I pushed the thought away. They were family, of course they cared about me. My pregnancy dragged on through seasons of discomfort. The morning sickness eventually subsided, only to be replaced by backaches, swollen feet, and a constant feeling of exhaustion. But with each ultrasound, each tiny kick, I grew more certain I'd made the right decision. It's a boy, the technician told me during my 20-week scan. You're having a son. I'd asked Megan to come with me that day, hoping to build some enthusiasm in at least one family member. She sat beside me, watching the screen with an unreadable expression. Isn't it amazing? I asked, pointing to the perfect outline of his profile. She replied, then quickly changed the subject. So, have you talked to HR about your maternity leave? How long will you be away from work? The question beneath her question was clear. How long will your income be reduced? I'll take the standard 12 weeks, but I can work remotely for part of it, I said, adjusting my shirt over my growing belly. Don't worry, I'll still be able to help with your rent. She had the decency to look embarrassed. That's not what I meant. But we both knew it was. As my due date approached, I transformed the second bedroom of my condo into a nursery. Soft blue walls, a white crib, a rocking chair by the window overlooking the city. I'd sit there sometimes, rubbing my belly and talking to my son about the life we'd have together. It'll be just you and me, buddy, I'd say. But we'll be okay. My family's visits became shorter and more perfunctory. Mom would drop by with prenatal vitamins or pregnancy magazines, but she never stayed long. Dad barely came at all, citing his back pain as an excuse. Megan was busy with her design work and wedding planning, though she found time to send me links to articles about single motherhood statistics and the challenges of raising a child alone. The stark contrast between my family's behavior and my coworkers' reactions was hard to ignore. My team organized a surprise baby shower, complete with thoughtful gifts and genuine excitement for my impending motherhood. David assured me my position would be waiting for me after maternity leave and even suggested flexible working arrangements once I returned. "We value you, Lauren," he said. "We'll make it work." Why couldn't my family show the same support? The answer came in an unexpected way, through a simple technological mistake. But that's a story for the next chapter. What happened still breaks my heart when I think about it, even now, years later. It changed everything. It forced my hand. It showed me who my real family was. And it made me realize that sometimes, the blood you're born into isn't always the most important thing. After my husband died, I raised my son alone. But then my mother excluded him from Christmas and treated my support like a monthly duty. I woke up as the clock struck 7 a.m. Sitting up on the single bed, I tried to shake off the lingering fatigue. Beside me, Leo, my 7-year-old son, was still sound asleep, his messy blonde hair spread across the pillow. Looking at him, my heart tightened. It's been almost a year since David, my husband and Leo's father, died in a construction accident. Since then, our lives have completely changed. I became a widow at 34, something I never imagined would happen. I work as the head of marketing for a small company, just enough to support the two of us. But the hardest part isn't the job or the finances. It's the loneliness and the burden of raising a child on my own. Fortunately, I have Alice and George, my in-laws. They're wonderful people, always willing to help whenever I need it. Alice often picks Leo up after school so I can focus on work. Every time I go to pick him up, she tries to slip money into my pocket, but I always refuse. "Clara, we just want to help," Alice once said, her eyes sincere. "We know the insurance payout was generous, but please, let us help." I appreciate their kindness deeply. The compensation, combined with my income, allows us to live fairly comfortably. But what I understand most clearly is that their help isn't just financial, it's filled with love and genuine care. If only my own parents treated Leo and me the same way. Ever since I was little, I've always felt like the stepchild in my own family. My parents always favored my sister, Brenda, and now they treat her children the same way. Last week, Leo went to visit his maternal grandparents, and everything unfolded as usual. He was excited, but after only 20 minutes, my mother started complaining. "Why does the clock sound so strange?" Leo asked, pointing to the old grandfather clock in the living room. "How does it work?" My mother sighed and rolled her eyes. "Clara, can't you tell him to be quiet? He just keeps asking question after question. Brenda's kids never bother anyone like this." My father nodded in agreement and opened his laptop. "Leo, go play a game, son. I downloaded some fun ones for you." But Leo doesn't like playing games. He likes to talk, to learn about everything around him. Meanwhile, Brenda's 3 children sat silently in the corner, glued to their phones. To my parents, that's the definition of good behavior. I've gotten used to staying silent in the face of comparisons and criticisms. Since I was young, I learned to suppress my emotions, accepting that I wasn't the favorite child. Every time my parents praised Brenda and criticized me, I'd just shake my head and stay quiet. At least they still help me occasionally, watching Leo when I work late, or picking him up if Alice is busy. One Tuesday evening, I went to my parents' house for dinner. The moment I walked in, I knew something was off. My mother had made lasagna, my favorite dish, which she only ever cooks when she's about to ask for something. My father was unusually talkative, asking about work, Leo, and a dozen other things. I knew they were building up to something, but I couldn't guess what. "Clara," my mother said, carefully slicing her lasagna. "We've been meaning to ask you. How much did the insurance pay out after David passed?" It felt like a slap. I almost choked on my drink. Maybe it was the shock, or maybe I was just too tired of keeping secrets from them, but I told the truth. Around $300,000. My mother's fork clattered onto her plate. My father snapped his head up so fast I feared he might hurt his neck. They stared at me like I'd just won the lottery. "Is that so?" my mother said slowly. "And what are you planning to do with that money?" I felt the weight settle on my shoulders. "I've already invested it," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "That money is for Leo's future, for college, or maybe a home someday. David and I had planned that together." But that's years from now, my father interjected. You should think about the present. Think about the family. And I knew. The family he spoke of didn't include Leo. You could do a lot with that money, my mother added, leaning in eagerly. Help the family, those who need it now, instead of holding on to it for a future that might never come. I don't want to talk about money anymore, I cut in, my voice sharper than I intended. Silence fell over the room. My father's face was filled with disappointment, an expression I knew all too well. My mother pressed her lips together, a clear sign she was angry. Dinner continued in heavy silence, broken only by the clinking of cutlery against plates. I thought that was the end of it. I knew my parents would be upset with me for at least a month, as they always were whenever I didn't do what they wanted. But to my surprise, just a week later, my mother called. This Sunday the whole family having dinner together, she said in a voice sweet as honey. Brenda and the kids will be there too. You have to come, sweetheart. I felt uneasy but agreed anyway. That Sunday, I arrived at my parents' house with a strange feeling in my chest. Brenda had come early with her 3 kids, all of them glued to their phones as usual. When everyone sat down at the table, Brenda started complaining about rising prices, increasing bills, and how hard life was getting. Everything's just so expensive, she sighed, passing around the mashed potatoes. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, lamenting food prices and the electricity bill. Then Brenda cleared her throat and straightened her back. I've been thinking, she announced, scanning the table with the confident gaze she's had since we were kids. Clara and I should help Mom and Dad financially. I'll send $500 a month. I wish I could give more, but Ben's the only one working, and I still have to raise the kids. She paused, as if building suspense, then turned to me with a fake smile. And you, Clara, you should send Mom and Dad $1,000 a month. I nearly choked again. What? It makes sense, Brenda continued, her voice calm like she was just presenting a simple equation. You earn more and only have 1 child. And, well, your situation is a bit more comfortable now. I felt my blood boil. The situation she referred to was David's death, the insurance money I'd set aside for my son's future. I wanted to scream, I'm a widow. I don't have a partner to share the financial burden anymore. But my mother clapped her hands with joy, and my father beamed like he'd just received a Christmas present. Oh, my sweet daughters, my mom exclaimed. You don't know how much this means to us. I sat there, furious, in disbelief. My whole life, I had tried to be recognized, to be accepted, and now, they were putting a price on love. All right, I heard myself say. I'll do it. That first transfer hurt the most. $1,000 vanished from my account with just a few clicks. I told myself, if this buys support from my family, maybe it's worth it. But that illusion faded quickly. Mom, can you pick up Leo today? Alice has a doctor's appointment and I've got a late meeting. Oh, I'm sorry, sweetheart, my mom said over the phone. I've got a headache, you know how my migraines are. It was always something. Every time I needed help, my mother had a reason to say no. Tired, busy, going grocery shopping, back pain. And still, the $1,000 kept leaving my account every month. One Thursday afternoon, when my mother once again refused to watch Leo, this time because she might be getting sick, I called Alice, nearly in desperation. Of course we'll pick him up, Alice said without hesitation. George is already on his way to school. Leo's telling him all about his science project. I hung up and collapsed into a chair, trying to hold back the tears welling in my eyes. $1,000 a month bought me nothing but excuses, while my mother-in-law would drop everything to help me, and never ask for anything. December was approaching. My family always celebrated Christmas at my parents' house. It was tradition, the whole family gathered, exchanging gifts, eating together, making memories. A week before Christmas, my mother called. Sweet Clara, she began, her voice sugary sweet. About Christmas Eve. Your father and I want to host an adults-only party this year. No kids this time. I gripped the pen in my hand. It snapped in two. What? We just want to do something a little more elegant this year, she said breezily, as if discussing a change in dessert. Wine, adult conversations, you understand? But, it's Christmas, I protested, stepping away so Leo wouldn't hear. Where am I supposed to leave Leo? Oh, that's simple, my mother said as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Just drop him off at Alice and George's. They'll be happy to watch him. You only need to be here at 7. I hung up the phone and looked over at Leo, still focused on his math homework, tongue sticking out in concentration, just like David used to do. For the next week, I wrestled with myself. Would skipping Christmas with my family be too dramatic? but celebrating it without my son felt too painful. In the end, I chose a compromise. I'd leave Leo with Alice and George for a few hours, drop by my parents' house to give gifts and say hello, then head back to spend the real holiday with my in-laws and my son. On Christmas Eve, I drove alone to my parents' house, a carefully wrapped gift bag in my hands. The street was packed with cars. Outside, I could already hear laughter and Christmas music. I opened the door, and the world tilted. The house was full of relatives, but what stunned me were the kids running around the living room, wearing paper hats and shrieking with joy. I saw Emily, my cousin's daughter, grabbing cookies near the tree. The more I looked, the clearer it became. Kids were everywhere. Michael's children, Susan's grandchildren. And only one child had been left out. Leo. I stood frozen in the doorway, my heart pounding. Aunt Helen was the first to spot me. "Clara, darling." She rushed over to hug me and looked around. "Where's Leo? Don't tell me he's sick." Before I could answer, Michael chimed in. "Yeah." Jake was excited to show Leo his new chemistry set. Questions began pouring in from all sides. I couldn't speak. Through the crowd, I saw my mother arranging cookies on a tray, as if everything was completely normal. As if she hadn't excluded Leo from Christmas. "I'm sorry," I whispered, weaving through the guests. "Mom, I need to talk to you. Privately." I pulled her into the hallway, away from the curious stares of our relatives. My heart was still pounding, and my fingers were clenched so tight my nails dug into my skin. "Mom," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "You told me this was an adults-only party. You specifically told me not to bring Leo. So why is Brenda's kid here? And all the other kids? What kind of no-kids party is this?" My mom adjusted her Christmas sweater and avoided eye contact. "Well, this is a different situation." "How so?" "Those kids know how to behave at a formal gathering," she said, gesturing vaguely toward the living room. "They're more polite." I stared at her, stunned. "More polite? Leo is one of the most well-behaved kids I know. His teachers always praise him. Alice and George, too." "Oh please, not Alice and George again," my mother cut in, rolling her eyes. "They spoil him. Let him ask a million questions non-stop. The other kids know their place. They understand boundaries." Right at that moment, a scream erupted from the dining room. Ethan, Brenda's youngest, had just thrown a handful of deviled eggs straight at his sister. The eggs flew across the table and splattered all over Emily's new dress. She screamed. I turned back to my mother, raising an eyebrow. "Yes, I can really see how well-behaved the kids are." My mother's face darkened. "Kids are supposed to be a little wild. But Leo asks too many questions. It's like he's trying to lecture the adults. Don't make this into a big deal, Clara. It's just a small difference, that's all." I felt something inside me break. Something that had been hurt for far too long, and could no longer endure. "I'm leaving," I said, turning away. "I'm going home to Leo." My mother shrugged, her eyes fixed on her bright red nails. "Suit yourself. But don't forget to leave the gift bag under the tree. We'll open them after dinner." I stopped, looked at her one last time, then walked back into the living room. I cleared my throat loudly. The chatter faded. All eyes turned to me. "Some of you have asked why I came alone tonight," I began, my voice louder than I expected. "Why Leo isn't here for the family's Christmas party." Brenda stepped toward me, maybe to stop me, but I held up a hand. "Let me finish. I came alone because a week ago, my mother called and told me this was an adults-only party. She told me I couldn't bring Leo." Murmurs rippled through the room. Helen's jaw dropped. "What? But there are kids everywhere?" "We weren't told anything about kids not being allowed," Uncle Paul added, staring at my mother in disbelief. My mother awkwardly stepped forward. "Clara, now's not the time." "No, Mom," I said, eyes locked on hers. "Now is exactly the time. Because this isn't an adults-only party. It's a party that excludes one child, my child." The murmuring grew louder. I saw the stunned looks, the disappointed headshakes aimed at my parents. "But that's not even the worst part," I said with a quiet, humorless laugh. "While my son was being left out of Christmas, I was expected to send my parents $1,000 a month. Brenda?" She was supposed to send $500. Ben, Brenda's husband, looked up like he'd been shocked with electricity. "Wait. $500? Brenda's face went pale. Ben turned to her confused. "Where would you be sending $500 from? We barely manage rent every month." Brenda stammered, her face flushing red. I never actually sent anything." I looked at her, no longer feeling even a shred of pity. They asked Brenda to lie. Told her to say she was contributing, so I'd feel like I had to do my part too. They said if I believed she was paying, I'd agree. Silence. Utter silence. I watched as the truth sank into everyone's faces. The scattered pieces came together into a full picture, one where my parents had deceived me, used me like an ATM, while excluding my child. Aunt Susan spoke, her voice trembling with rage. You used your own daughter for money, then cast out your grandson from the family? That's unthinkable, disgraceful. The room erupted. Voices raised, demanding answers, calling out my parents. Ben turned on Brenda, furious, questioning her. My parents stood frozen, their perfect family facade collapsing before them. I raised my hand again, everyone fell silent. There's one more thing I want to say. All eyes turned to me again. My parents stood by the Christmas tree, pale as ghosts. Brenda was still trying to explain herself to Ben. From this moment on, I said, my voice calm, like passing a sentence, I won't be sending another dollar to either of you. And I will no longer maintain any relationship with you, or with Brenda. I'm done. I turned, placed the gift bag by the door, and walked out of the house I once called home. The door closed behind me with a final thud, the period to a chapter I should have ended long ago. I sat in the car for a long while, hands resting on the steering wheel, heart still trembling. The night air was freezing, but inside me was a strange warmth, a feeling I hadn't had in years. Relief. I unlocked my phone and opened the banking app. With just a few simple steps, I canceled the monthly transfer to my mother's account. One tap, one confirmation, as if I had just broken the invisible chain that had been dragging me for the past year. The road back to Alice and George's felt both long and incredibly short. As I pulled into their driveway, I saw Leo through the kitchen window, standing by the counter helping Alice decorate cookies. Warm yellow light glowed on his tousled blonde hair. He was smiling. A full, carefree smile. My eyes stung. That evening, we stayed with Alice and George. We baked cookies, sang a few silly carols, then rearranged the nativity scene that Leo had put in the wrong order. George explained each figure in the Christmas story, and Leo asked question after question. And no one, not a single person, told him he was being a bother. That's when I realized, this is what family is. Not blood. But the people who choose you. Who chooses your child? The next morning, while Leo was still fast asleep among a pile of Santa's presents, my phone rang. It was Aunt Susan. You should hear what happened after you left, she said, skipping any pleasantries. As soon as you walked out, it was like a dam broke. Uncle Robert stood up and said he couldn't stay another minute. Then Helen left. Then Paul. People started walking out one after another. Some even told your parents to their faces that they were con artists. That they were a disgrace to the family. I listened in silence. Aunt Susan continued, her voice angry on my behalf. Ben was furious. He packed up the kids' things right then and told Brenda he needed time to think about their marriage. Last night, he took them to his parents' house. I closed my eyes. A part of me felt sad for what Brenda had caused, but mostly, I just felt, right. All of this should have come out a long time ago. I want you to know, Aunt Susan added, her voice softening. We're on your side. What they did to you and Leo, it's unforgivable. I thanked her, then hung up. Right after, the messages came flooding in, from my mother, my father, and Brenda. All saying the same thing. We're sorry, we were wrong, please talk to us, let us explain. I read each one. Then quietly moved them to the archive. I didn't reply. The week between Christmas and New Year's passed like a gentle breeze. Leo and I stayed with Alice and George, playing board games, watching movies, baking. Nothing extravagant, nothing loud, just pure, genuine warmth. The new year has arrived. On the morning of the 31st, the doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw my parents standing on the porch, holding a large gift box wrapped in shiny paper. My heart thudded, not from fear, but because I wasn't sure whether I should even open the door. Clara, we know you're home, my mother's voice called sweetly from outside. So sweet it made my skin crawl. We just want to talk. I opened the door, but blocked the entry. I kept my distance. They looked smaller. The power they once held was gone. Maybe because for the first time, I wasn't the obedient daughter standing silently while they lectured. We brought this for Leo, my father said, holding the box out to me. One glance at the wrapping and I knew it was some expensive piece of electronics. Leo doesn't need it, I replied, not taking the gift. Clara, my mother stepped forward. We know we were wrong, about how we treated Leo, about the money. We truly regret it. And we want you to know, this isn't about money, we really feel sorry. I looked at them carefully, searching for truth in their eyes. Are you sorry because you realize you were truly wrong, or because the whole family found out and turned against you? I asked, unblinking. They looked at each other, just one glance. And I had my answer. I think you should go, I said gently. I don't believe you. And I don't trust you anymore. But we're family, my mother nearly pleaded, her eyes brimming with tears. No, I shook my head. Families don't use each other. Family doesn't deceive their daughter for money. Family doesn't exclude a child from Christmas. They stepped back, clutching the gift box, then quietly turned and walked away. I watched until their car disappeared past the gate. I didn't feel sad. I just felt free. Months later, I still stood by my decision. No texts, no calls. Brenda tried to reach out too, but I had blocked her number. The money I used to send every month, I now transfer into Leo's college fund. And the strange thing is, when you cut out toxic people, you make room for healthy, beautiful relationships to grow. Aunt Susan started inviting us over for Sunday dinners. Uncle Robert hosted BBQs, and Leo got to play with his cousins. People asked genuine questions, listened to Leo, and encouraged his endless curiosity. Mom, why does Uncle Robert's pool smell weird? Leo asked one summer afternoon. That's the smell of chlorine, kiddo, Uncle Robert answered before I could, then launched into a whole explanation about sanitization and chemical reactions, and Leo was absolutely fascinated. I watched my son bloom, like a tree finally being watered with real love. No one told him he was too much. No one told him to stop asking questions. Leo started calling Alice and George Grandma and Grandpa, something I had never asked him to do. They had become our safe harbor. And now I knew. Family isn't where you're born, it's where people choose to love you like you belong. And me, I finally made the right choice. I discovered that my husband had an affair with my own sister, and my family had deliberately kept it a secret. I chose revenge. Perhaps the easiest way to begin is with an introduction and a little description of my family. My name is Maya, and I have just got the most devastating news of my life. But first, let me tell you a little bit about my family. I've always known I wasn't the favorite. Nobody ever said it directly, but you can feel it in your bones. It's the way your parents look at you against your siblings, how they communicate with you, and how they always choose them in both tiny and huge situations. My older sister, Chloe, was always the golden kid, the one who could do no wrong and received all of the love and attention, while I watched from the background. Growing up, it was painfully clear. If Chloe had a good grade, it was saved in the refrigerator. If I received a decent mark, they gave me a brief smile before returning to chatting about Chloe's accomplishments. I was her shadow. Despite everything, I never loathed her. Sure, I despised my parents putting her on a pedestal, but Chloe was my sister, and I loved her. I assumed it was not her fault that my parents treated us differently. I assumed that was enough. Even if things weren't fair in childhood, we'd figure it out as adults, and our relationship would be balanced. But I was dreadfully mistaken. 2 days ago, everything fell apart. It was meant to be a wonderful evening. My parents had asked us for dinner to celebrate Chloe's pregnancy. I felt truly thrilled for her. Chloe and her husband Liam had been trying to have a baby for a long time, and I understood how important it was to her to have a family. So I attended, despite the underlying unease I'd always had around my relatives. It was a constant reminder that I wasn't good enough, that I was constantly second behind Chloe. Ethan, my husband, was by my side, as he had done for the previous 5 years. He understood how hard my connection with my family was, and he was always my anchor, the only person who made me feel seen. Or so I thought. Dinner was normal, even enjoyable. We gathered around the table, laughing and sharing Chloe's excellent news. My parents, as predicted, were ecstatic about Chloe's pregnancy, as if she had created parenting. But this didn't surprise me anymore. I smiled and complimented her while pretending everything was okay. Then I accidentally overheard my parents talk, and my entire world crumbled. Following supper, I excused myself to visit the restroom. On my way home, I went by the kitchen and overheard my parents whispering. I should have kept walking, but something about their whispered tone stopped me. And then I heard it. My mother said they would never inform me about Chloe's error. At first, I was perplexed, wondering what mistake they were referring to. But then the answer struck me like a smack in the face. They were talking about Chloe sleeping with my husband Ethan. Apparently, it had happened months before, and they had opted not to inform me in order to protect Chloe's reputation, because she was their lovely daughter and did not deserve to have her image ruined. They described it as a simple mistake, a slip in judgment that should be forgiven, because what mattered was that Chloe became pregnant. I stood paralyzed, unable to move or breathe. The walls appeared to be closing in around me. My mind was filled with incredulity, betrayal, and wrath. My spouse, my partner, the man I trusted with my life, cheated on me with my own sister. Worse, my parents knew. They had kept it a secret because they wanted to protect Chloe rather than give me the truth. They selected her over me again. I felt like all of my years of feeling less worthy had been vindicated. They'd made their decision, and it wasn't mine. I don't even recall how I left that house that night. I dimly recall murmuring something about feeling ill and having to go. I couldn't face them, not my parents, nor Chloe, and particularly not Ethan. So I just left, got into my car, and drove. But I can't recall where I went. I simply needed to get away from them, from the reality of what I had just learned. I felt as if my entire existence was a terrible joke, that nothing made sense anymore, and that I was plummeting into an abyss with no way out. It's been 2 days, and I'm still struggling to process it. I have not faced anyone yet. I haven't spoken to Ethan much since that night. He keeps asking me what's wrong and why I'm so aloof, but I can't even look him in the eye, let alone speak to him. Every time I see him, all I can think of is him and my sister Chloe. How could he have done this to me? How could she and my parents hide it like it didn't matter, as if I didn't exist? I keep revisiting that conversation in my memory, hearing my parents tell Chloe that her mistake would not ruin her life, that it was simply a moment of weakness. But how about my life? How about my marriage? Didn't it matter? Didn't I matter? I feel erased, like I'm a supporting role in a story that should have been mine, but it's always about Chloe. They will always protect her, regardless of what she does or how much she hurts me. And now I'm gathering up the pieces, trying to find out how to move forward after everything I thought I knew has been flipped upside down. I honestly do not know what to do. I'm not sure whether I should face Ethan and demand the truth, or talk to my parents and tell them how much they've wounded me. I'm not sure who to face first. I'm not even sure whether I have the strength to face Chloe. The notion of speaking with her and hearing any explanations she may have for betraying me makes me sick to my stomach. But I can't keep living this way, pretending everything is fine when it isn't. I can't hold this secret inside, allowing it to taint my every thought and moment. Part of me wants to scream at them, telling them how much they've wounded me and damaged. But another part of me wants to leave, run away, and never look back. I'm not sure which segment to listen to. I'm not even sure whether there's a good choice here. All I know is that I am entirely broken, and I have no idea how to put myself back together. My entire life, I've felt like I wasn't good enough, like I didn't matter. And now, after all of this, it appears that has been confirmed. My parents have made it obvious that Chloe will always be their top priority, regardless of what she does or who she hurts. So where does it leave me? How can I move forward when the people who were supposed to love and protect me have repeatedly chosen someone else? I do not have the answers. I wish I had. I wish I knew what to do, how to mend it, or even how to move on. But right now, all I feel is tremendous betrayal and pain, and I have no idea how to stop it. That's why I'm here, writing this post, hoping that someone, anybody, will tell me what to do, since I feel like I'm falling apart and have no idea how to stop it. I understand that it is easy to form an opinion from the outside, and that is exactly what I am seeking for. But on the inside, it feels overwhelming. Update 1. It's been over 2 weeks since my initial post. I have had time to think, feel, and plan. I was initially paralyzed by the agony, uncertainty, and betrayal. However, that immobility has dissipated, giving way to something colder, sharper, and far more frightening. At first, I believed confronting Ethan, Chloe, and my parents would provide some closure. But now I've decided on something completely different. Yes, I will face them, but not by yelling, crying, or demanding explanations. Instead, I want them to feel the suffering I've been through. I desire vengeance. I intend to get my revenge in the most complete manner possible while adhering to the letter of the law. For the past 2 days, I have been meticulous and patient. They believe I know nothing and am a second-rate daughter and wife who simply smiles and agrees on everything. Let them continue to believe that, because in the meantime, I've been working in silence, accumulating proof to back up everything I heard that night. Betrayal always leaves a trail, even if the betrayer believes they have hidden their tracks. And I'm determined to reveal every information they thought was hidden. First, let me tell you about the baby shower. Yes, there was a baby shower. A few days after my last post, my mother contacted me in her typical happy tone, pretending nothing had occurred, as if she hadn't been a part of this tremendous betrayal. She asked if I would host Chloe's baby shower because, to my family, I am essentially a servant, and of course, I would be in charge of it. Perhaps if the circumstances were reversed, she would not have asked my sister to host this event. Yes, she wanted me to commemorate the guy who had ruined my marriage and life. The arrogance left me dumbfounded for a moment. But then it occurred to me that I could turn this to my advantage. This could be an excellent time to lay the groundwork for what's coming. Of course, I agreed. I answered sure, making sure my tone did not reveal my genuine intentions. She was overjoyed, nearly euphoric. "Chloe will be so happy," she remarked. I grinned through the phone, thinking about how thrilled Chloe would be to find out what I had planned for her. But, before I made my move, I needed to gather as much as I could. I became nearly obsessed with discovering every last secret, message, and piece of proof proving exactly what they had done to me. While Ethan slept, I went through his phone, laptop, and even his old backups. At first, I wasn't sure what I'd find. Perhaps they were clever enough to hide their footprints. However, when people believe they have control, they tend to become careless. The first piece of proof appeared in the form of a secret folder on his phone. He thought he was clever by giving it a simple name, but I knew him too well. There were photographs within. Photos of him with Chloe. And, as it turned out, it wasn't a one-time event, but rather an elaborate one. At first glance, some of the images appeared innocent, but others clearly revealed their relationship. My stomach churned as I stared at them, but I didn't stop. Over the next few evenings, I continued digging. Text messages, emails, and archived social media messages. I discovered chats between Chloe and Ethan, some from months ago, when they discussed how careful they had to be to keep me from finding out. Their remarks cut like knives, yet they also fueled me. They had been so casual about it, as if I were just an impediment in their path. But the big shock came when I discovered texts between my parents and Chloe. My mother, in particular, had been actively involved in keeping everything a secret. There were discussions about how Maya did not need to know and the significance of protecting Chloe's reputation. Chloe even provided Ethan screenshots of these communications to reassure him that my parents were on their side and didn't have to worry about me finding out. I felt ill to my stomach when reading it. They didn't care that I was their daughter. All they were concerned about was Chloe's reputation. I've saved everything. Every image, communication, and piece of evidence was now safely kept on my devices. I backed everything up just in case. I was not going to rush. I was going to wait for the right opportunity to strike. Maybe at the baby shower, maybe later. But I'd make certain that when everything came crashing down, it would be catastrophic. They wouldn't know what had hit them. Update 2. It's been about a week since my previous post, and I have so much to share, but I'm not sure where to start. Yesterday's events felt like they happened in a dream, or possibly a nightmare. It depends on whoever you ask. I spent the entire day at Chloe's baby shower, pretending to be the perfect hostess while hiding my inner turmoil. The facade was meticulously designed. I was the devoted sister, happy daughter, and faithful wife. Everyone was present. Family, friends, and Chloe's spouse. None of them had any idea of the impending chaos. The celebration itself was a lavish affair, and my mother was overjoyed, ensuring everything was perfect for tiny Chloe. My parents had no idea that the true present would be for me. A gift that will ruin the neatly crafted universe they had built. I was acutely conscious of my fast-beating heart. My pulse quickened not from exhilaration, but from the impending mayhem. As the day went, I engaged in pleasant conversations, laughed at superficial jokes, and organized the many baby gifts that stacked up on the table. All the while, I was acutely aware of the ticking time bomb about to blow. I could see Chloe enjoying the attention. Her smile would fade quickly, but the more she believed she had gotten away with it, the better my payback would be. The time comes when they cut the cake. Everyone applauded and praised her, and I felt my heart race even faster as I prepared to give Chloe with my special gift. I told everyone it came from the heart, but deep down I knew it came from the depths of my anguish. Then I stood up to address the gathering, and the room became quiet. Chloe smiled at me, clearly excited, as she grabbed for the beautifully wrapped box I had worked so hard to offer. Delicate paper and an elaborate bow were all intended to heighten anticipation and make it appear like a very valuable gift, which it was. People flocked around Chloe to get a better look as she started to open it. Inside were printed photographs of her and Ethan in highly compromising circumstances. Intimate moments captured in time. The types of photos you wouldn't want your family to view. I had deliberately chosen the most damaging ones, those that proved their betrayal in an obvious and indisputable manner. Chloe's countenance changed from joy to perplexity, then fear, as she examined the contents of the box. The atmosphere in the room changed as individuals recognized what was going on and the significance of the shot to everyone involved. Chloe, me, and my husband. But I wasn't finished yet. As rumors began, and people began to question Chloe or me, I pulled back the decorative curtains, displaying enlarged versions of similar images displayed prominently. The truth was now on display for anyone to see. A collection of betrayal, documenting the affair that wrecked my life. Chloe's face went white, blood draining from her cheeks, making her appear ghostly. Her hands trembled as she attempted to comprehend what was occurring. My parents automatically tried to interfere, but I refused to be silenced. I took a deep breath and allowed the words to flow. I recounted the entire affair, including how they had helped cover it up and pretended everything was okay while Chloe betrayed me to my husband. Chloe's husband, absolutely stunned, stormed out of the room, yelling at her, calling her a cheater, and expressing incredulity that she could do all of this. Perhaps it was a similar demonstration and emotion that I experienced as I worked through the entire affair. My parents were speechless, unable to defend their precious child this time. As I revealed the disaster Chloe had made, the universe they had carefully built around her began to crumble. Standing in the crowd, I had a peculiar feeling. A sensation of relief washed over me. Some folks offered me consolation, but I didn't need it at the time, because I had completed the necessary tasks. So I collected my items and walked away. Update 3. 2 weeks have gone since my last update, and I believe the dust has settled sufficiently to relate what remains of my shock and astonishment at the baby shower, as well as the ramifications for all those engaged in the treachery. The night I revealed everything, I left the party as soon as I finished my presentation. I had no desire to communicate with anyone or face the reactions of individuals who had previously been my family. I had no idea what happened next until Chloe's friend, or rather, her former friend, contacted me a few days later to ask me a few things. This person, one of Chloe's closest confidants, started the talk with a tone ranging from disbelief to disgust. She told me that after what I had revealed, she had realized Chloe's true personality. In her words, if Chloe could fool her own sister with her husband, who can say she won't do the same to her? The betrayal she observed at the party had made her very skeptical, and she felt she couldn't have a friendship with someone like that. During our talk, she sought suggestions on how to examine her spouse to ensure that he was not concealing anything similar. I instructed her to closely examine his social media communications, text messages, and any interactions on his phone that appeared suspect. I also made it obvious that if she discovered anything major, I would wait for her to share. I thought many of you would want to know as well. But that wasn't everything she told me. Apparently, after I left the party, the venue had devolved into a complete battle zone. When Chloe's in-laws saw what was going on, they screamed and made accusations. Chloe's in-laws were outraged and disappointed, spitting harsh and disrespectful comments at her for what she had done. My father, with what dignity he had left, attempted to interfere to protect his daughter, arguing that Chloe was pregnant and that they shouldn't speak to her in that way. But Chloe's father-in-law didn't mince words, retorting that their lovely daughter was nothing more than a whore of Babylon. Let's just say he used a more vulgar term. That phrase struck my father like a dagger, and he lunged at Chloe's father-in-law, wanting to settle matters violently. That didn't go so well for him. Chloe's father-in-law delivered a single punch, knocking him to the ground. He did not lose consciousness, but instead lay on the floor, possibly out of embarrassment or dread of suffering another punch. Not only were the men willing to fight. Chloe's mother-in-law, outraged by what had happened, began to verbally assault my mother, who refused to back down, calling Chloe's father-in-law an ape for beating her husband. This caused the other woman to rush at her. The scene was horrific. I heard that Chloe's mother-in-law tugged my mother's hair so hard that they had to be separated. My mother ended up losing a large amount of her hair, and someone even suggested that she might start thinking about getting wigs. Several people attempted to break up the incident before it developed further. I'll admit that deep down, I regretted not remaining at the party to see how my present was received. It's the same sensation you get when you miss school on the most important day of the year. But, despite my curiosity, I realized it was for the best. I left to keep my head clear and avoid being caught up in guilt and chaos. Surprisingly, Chloe escaped this event bodily unharmed. Not because she didn't deserve it, but because she was pregnant, and all there, even the most enraged, had the self-control not to physically kill her. Though there was a good chance the baby she was carrying was my husband's, it wasn't the child's fault that its mother was such a cheater and traitor. Update 4. My ex-husband, or soon-to-be ex-husband, has made significant improvement. I served him with the divorce papers as soon as I had them processed. He was not pummeled at the party, and I believe he was clever enough to remain mute and attempt to blend in with the crowd. He stayed silent, keeping his head down as if he wished not to be noticed. Apparently, this tactic worked since he escaped the punch from Chloe's father-in-law, which he deserved more than anyone else, especially since her father-in-law was so eager to administer it. When he arrived home, he discovered that all of his stuff had been tossed out on the grass. I did not leave any of his belongings inside. Everything was on the grass, waiting for him to receive the message. He didn't say anything or knock on the door to speak with me. He simply gathered his belongings and departed. At least he took the hint. We are currently waiting to see what will happen to the house after the divorce is official. In the previous 2 weeks, neither my sister nor my family has sought to contact me. Not to apologize, nor to vent their rage on me, which does not surprise me. Even though I was the one who was most affected by all of this, aside from my father's humiliation, they lacked the guilt and regret to reach out and apologize. This verifies what I have always suspected. Whatever happens, Chloe will always be their number one priority. This public betrayal and humiliation, however devastating, do not appear to be enough to cause them to ponder. I've spent my entire life looking for a place in my family, a way to be recognized and loved, but these incidents have taught me that it will never happen. No matter how badly they harmed me or betrayed my trust, I will always be the daughter they can ignore. Update 5. I like that saying. Everyone has a plan, until they are punched in the face. And this is exactly what happened to my ex-husband. But let me not get ahead of myself and describe what has happened in the last few months. It turns out that Chloe's friend, who I assisted in her inquiry, discovered that her husband was also cheating on her, with my sister. As you would expect, she approached him right away. During the dispute, my pal mentioned that my ex was also involved in the situation. What exactly did her husband do? Without saying anything, he drove straight to my sister's house, where she was living with my ex, because they both assumed the kid she was carrying was his. What comes next is the finest part. The dude punched my ex directly in the face. So, despite avoiding a punch during the party, he eventually received what he deserved. Apparently, my ex chose to sue him for that punch, but I'm not sure what occurred, and frankly, I don't care. My sister's husband left shortly after discovering the situation and filed for divorce. That divorce has yet to be finalized, most likely due to the presence of a baby, which takes longer to complete. My divorce, on the other hand, was finalized approximately a month ago. For those of you who are wondering about the assets, the house we shared was sold, and the proceeds were split evenly. We were not required to pay alimony, and because we did not have children, the process was simplified. I believe that the fact that my divorce was resolved fast exacerbated the stress surrounding my sister. Returning to my ex, after receiving that punch in the face, he received an emotional blow when he discovered that he might not be the father of the child in my sister's womb. In an ironic turn of events, he chose to leave my sister's residence, unable to stomach the thought that she may be cheating on him. This portion makes me giggle, but it also makes me ponder about the reasoning behind adultery and people like it. How can someone who is willing to cheat on their relationship with someone else be hurt when their partner cheats on them? Perhaps I don't understand the envy in that case since, fortunately, I'm a decent person who has never been compelled to betray somebody in that way. His hypocrisy is so obvious it's almost laughable. But the situation doesn't end there, since there's an unforeseen twist. My sister's baby was born, and as you could expect, a DNA test was performed immediately. It comes out that my ex is not the father. The infant was the child of Chloe's best friend's husband, who filed for divorce after learning of the affair. What struck me was that, while this man was the father, there was probably another candidate. Knowing my sister and how she has handled things throughout this, I wouldn't be surprised if there were more contenders for paternity. Honestly, given who my dad and sister are, this is not unusual for them. It is simply another Tuesday for them. They don't care how bizarre the scenario becomes since they are so used to living in chaos and drama. And, no, neither my parents nor my sister have contacted me since. But this time, and only this time, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and assume that it's not because they don't value me as a daughter or sister. Perhaps they're too preoccupied with the calamity they've created for themselves. Update 6. First and foremost, let me to clarify something, as it appears that some people missed the sarcasm in my previous update. When I stated I was giving my family the benefit of the doubt, I was joking. No, I don't believe they've ever actually cared, and even if there wasn't a scandal of this scale, they wouldn't bother to contact you. Moving on, my sister has had to move back in with my parents. Why? Well, the baby's biological father opted not to stay with her, and while he had also been unfaithful, I understood why. Staying with someone as untrustworthy as my sister seems like more of a punishment than a reward. So, alone and with a baby, she returned to the only location where she was still warmly welcomed, my parents' house. My sister's divorce resulted in a favorable outcome for my former brother-in-law. The house they shared was sold, and he was not required to pay child support or alimony. I believe this was the best case scenario for him. Now he can leave this situation with no financial or personal links to my sister. It's as if life gave him a one-way ticket, and I can't imagine a happier ending for him. Chloe's buddy likewise concluded her divorce, and things appear to have settled down in terms of peace and counting punches. Despite everything that has happened, it is evident that many of the characters in this story deserve another punch. For the time being, the reality TV shows have come to an end, but the memories will live on in the minds and on the faces of all those involved. Am I the asshole for kicking out my mom's boyfriend after he stayed at my house for 4 years? His new girlfriend has now disrespected me in my own home. When I was 17, my mom came into money. She tried to keep it quiet, but she paid off my dad's debts, bought him a small house, paid off her debts, and paid for my sister's college and set up funds for mine. She had a boyfriend at the time, and shortly after, him and his son, who was 7, moved into our new house. Over the next few years, Mom bought my sister a house after she graduated college. Her boyfriend lived with us and didn't pay anything, but he did work. When I was 21, Mom got diagnosed with cancer. It wasn't good. She sat me and my sister down and went over exactly how much money there was. She intended to give her current house to me, and both me and my sister were left with a large sum at the end of it. She asked if I would allow her boyfriend to stay in the house with his son until he got his own place. I agreed. Before she died, she told her boyfriend he would need to look for his own place but had time to save more for that journey. For the last 4 years he has continued to reside in the house with his son. I haven't minded because we get along okay. I pay all the bills, but he does buy food for him and his kid. He has dated off and on and mostly kept the women out of this house, which I respected him for. Until his current partner. She's been in my house 3 times, and at first, besides feeling a little uncomfortable, I was okay with her. The last time, this past weekend, was the point where I lost my shit. I was making myself some lunch when she came walking downstairs. She grabbed a plate and went to grab food out of my pan. I asked her what she thought was doing. She started telling me how I should look for somewhere else to live, and leeching off my dead mom's past relationship as an adult was pathetic. I hollered for my mom's old boyfriend. He came down and I told him I didn't know what he current thinking, but I wasn't going to be disrespected in my house. He wouldn't even look me in the eyes as he mumbled something about my mom promising him the house and he was just being kind, letting me stay. First, that isn't remotely true. Mom pulled him and I together after she asked if he could stay to set expectations. My mom met him shortly before she won the money and told him and us girls that she had no intention of leaving him money. She did set aside a fund for his son for college when he gets there, but he cannot touch it, only his son can. He has lived in this house almost 8 years without paying a dime. He should have plenty of money, and if he doesn't, that's on him. I told him he had 30 days to leave. I wasn't going to house someone who would lie and disrespect me in my house. He left that night with his son, but his ex-wife called to tell me I am cruel and an for her son losing his house. He is here every other week. I really feel like my mom didn't expect him to still be here, but my sister said she feels like I am breaking my promise to my mom, and that made me feel like maybe I am the Comments. Comment 1, NTA. The critical part here is that your mom asked you to let him stay until he got his own place and to give him time to find one. In that time, instead of looking to move somewhere else, he continued to settle into life in the house, to the point where he even started bringing a new girlfriend along. He moved on but didn't move out. Him lying to her and telling her this was his house tells you everything you need to know about his actual intentions to leave. You kicking him out wasn't abrupt. The clock had run out on your mother's kindness and your obligation to her a long time ago, and he was living there on generously borrowed time. Comment 2. OP's mom probably expected it to be a month or 2 since he's working but has no living expenses and didn't during their relationship, not 4 years. Where the hell is his money going if he can't get his own place? Comment 3. He had at least 4 years to save before OP's mother passed away, plus the 4 years since then. He has only been paying for food and presumably his phone, car insurance, fuel, etc. in that time. He should have incredibly healthy savings. Especially as he was living with his sister to save up before that. The mother probably thought that he'd take a month or 2 to grieve, spend a month or 4 looking in earnest, and be out of OP's hair within the year. If he was saving say $1,500 per month while the mother was alive, rent plus utilities and council tax local equivalent on a 2-bed house flat has to be at least that, pretty much everywhere in what sounds like the US, right? That'd be $72,000 before she passed, the same again since then, and whatever he had beforehand. Of course he could afford to move out straight away. Dude should have a good $150,000 minimum sitting in his bank account. That's most definitely screw this. I'm off to a hotel to complain to people who I can tell a very slanted version of the story to. Money. Comment 4. If it happened exactly as you said, you're not the asshole. If she did say he had time to save, but would need to look for his own place, that means she never imagined or wanted him staying for long. So you're breaking no promises. Did she leave him any money or assets? It's totally possible that your mother would be livid if she knew her boyfriend was still living with her son after 4 years. Oop. No, she created a fund for his son for his college, but that was the only money set aside for him or his son. It's a generous amount, enough for 4 years at a high-dollar school. Anything not used for school will be given to him on his 25th birthday. From what I believe she told me, a lawyer and accountant are in charge of those funds, not me or my sister, so I only know what she told us before she died. Love, Nana. Sweetheart, your NTA. First, I am so sorry. I'm 63 years old and lost my mom 2 years ago and my dad 8 years ago. I am not dealing with it well at all. You are the only one who knows if you're telling the truth. It seems very plausible to me. But, if he was already saving money for a house when he met your mom, then lived 4 years with her and another 4 years with you, that man is just a loser. Is there any way your dad could come stay with you the week he moves out? The first thing you need to do is change all of the locks and get yourself some sort of security system. Please don't feel bad for making him leave. It seems to me that your mom was really smart and planned things out very carefully. Being that he had already lived with her for 4 years, I agree with the commenters who said she was probably thinking a month or 2. Not years. If your sister makes any more comments, then you can tell her she's welcome to let him live with her. Again, so sorry for your loss. Please make sure you're safe and take care of yourself. Oop. Thank you so much. My mom was the sweetest person, and when I was a teenager I felt like I was a nightmare to her. I am thankful I was much better in my late teens and 2021, so she got to see me mature a little before she passed. I wasn't always the best daughter, but she was always the best mom. Loved, Nana. If he has stayed gone, I'm really hoping that you have changed the locks and gotten a security system. The first time I read what you wrote, I was thinking he walked out that night because he was upset. When I reread it, I realized that you were saying he moved out. Apologies for misunderstanding. Commenter. I ditto this comment. However, I am 53 and my mom passed away last April. That leech has been taking advantage of your family long enough. You can either set the record straight with his ex and girlfriend or close the book on this chapter. But definitely know that you are NTA and your mom's request has been honored. I know that she is proud of you for being as good as you have been to him and his son. Take care, commenter. How did his girlfriend react when she realized he lied? I would have liked to be a fly on the wall in that conversation. Oop. She sat with her arms crossed when he and I talked, but she didn't say anything else. She left with him. Update, 1 day later. I know the other sub is very subjective on updates, so I figured I would post it here. I do want to take a moment to address some things I saw in the comment. There are trusts set up and neither me nor my sister has full access to the money left us. This was done both because my sister and I were in our early 20s when my mom died, and she wanted to make sure we had some stability before we had access, and to protect us from people who may try to take advantage, especially while we were grieving. 2. I have a lawyer. He has already informed me legally in my area what eviction laws are, and my mom's former boyfriend will be served with formal eviction papers just to cover myself even after today. So to the update, my dad came over, decided not to have my boyfriend over since he doesn't know about the money side and I wasn't trying to have the boyfriend out of the situation, this morning, and brought along my cousin. For easier telling, I'm going to call mom's former boyfriend. CC showed up about 10 a.m. my time and talked to my dad, then asked if he could have a couple of minutes alone with me. Dad nodded, so my cousin and him went into the kitchen and C and I sat in the living room. I'll be honest, I didn't expect it to go as it had, but I am glad it did. C started with an apology. I don't remember all of the words said, but the basics were he missed my mom, he has been lonely but not alone thanks to me and his son. He was sorry for what had happened, that he got caught up in lust and let someone else fill his head with ideas, and that he owned up to his mistakes and should have never put up with someone who would disrespect me or my mom's memory. He tried to hand me a cashier's check for $15,000. He said it wasn't much, but he wanted me to know he appreciated me and living with me and that he wanted to pay back some of what he owed. I refused the check, both in part because I never wanted his money, but I also don't want to give any possible legal leg for him to stand on if this is somehow him trying to stay. I told him the first part and told him to put it towards a house. He told me he is living with his sister but is going to look at houses with a realtor next week. He did say his son is asking about our next hangout date and said both me and my sister are welcome to arrange time with him. After all of that, my dad and cousin helped him get all the stuff out of the house that he owned. He had brought a U-Haul, and he gave me back my house keys. He apologized again and left. Not what I expected. But it went really well and I feel a lot less like I let my mom down. Comments. Commenter, I'm just being nosy, sure, but how did the woman who thought she's getting you kicked out of your house respond to it all? Oop, no clue. At my house she just seemed smug and bitchy. I didn't ask C about her and honestly don't care. My house is nice but it's not like it's multi-million dollars or anything. Commenter. Had you said all that stuff in the previous post to him away from his girlfriend? Were you not there when he grabbed her to leave? Just wondering, because I assumed it was said in front of her and that's why she left so easily instead of trying to fight to make you leave. Oop. All that got said in front of her was that I wasn't going to be disrespected in my house and he could have 30 days to find new housing and she was not welcome back. That was all I said in front of her and she kept a pissy face on but didn't say anything to me and walked out with him. Update, 10 days later? This is probably going to be my last update unless something unexpected happens, but I thought I would just give a quick update on C. So C called me last week and again yesterday. He put an offer on a house and yesterday got accepted. They expected the close date to be early next month but I am very proud of him. I know everyone expected more drama, and honestly some of the comments had me worried, but it's been really good. He thanked me a lot for letting him have so much time here, offered me some money one more time for his time here which I again declined, but I did offer to help him move in when the time comes. Moving sucks. He put down almost half for a down payment so he definitely was saving money during his time here and I'm glad everything that happened was an encouragement for him to get into a home of his own. I talked to his son yesterday after he got out of school. We are going to play laser tag this weekend with my sister and he is excited for the new house too. Update, 1 month later. I didn't expect to come back but I had a surprise this past weekend and I thought I would share some positives. So first off, C got his house. He closed and moved in this past week. He invited me over on Saturday to see the house and told me he had something for me. So some background on my mom. Mom was an amazing kind woman. She was also heavyset and very self-conscious. Most of the photos I have of her are Snapchat pictures she would send. She hated pictures of herself and she absolutely refused to pose for a camera. I have made many comments since she passed that I worry I won't remember what she looked like since so many photos I have are either old or filtered. So back to present day, C invited me and my sister over and showed us his new place. He thanked us for being amazing people and then he handed us each a photo album. Guys, he had hundreds of photos of my mom printed off for each of us. He told us he hated that she filtered her photos and he has secretly been taking photos of her their whole relationship because he loved the real her. He had snagged photos of us with her at the zoo, photos of her on vacations, photos of her napping, photos of her during hikes. Both me and my sister were bawling looking through these pictures of mom we never knew we needed. He had put some little card notes for dates of each photo and some descriptions on some. He managed to capture her smiling and laughing, things she would never take a picture of because she didn't like her smile. To me this book is priceless. So that's it, C is amazing and maybe we had one bad moment but it doesn't define him or I. He loved my mom and that matters. We are all going to get together for my mom's birthday in a few months and just celebrate the woman she was. Comments. Comment 1. That's so wonderful and touching. And I love that your mother was so beloved during her life, and now. And so glad that you updated a great resolution to a moment of poor judgment. Comment 2. These photos are a real treasure. It's amazing how much joy can shine through in candid shots like these. I bet they bring back so many fond memories for you and your sister. It's wonderful that C had the thoughtfulness to capture your mom's true essence, her playful side as well as her tender moments. I asked for an open relationship out of boredom. He agreed but warned he'd leave if he fell for someone else. 8 months later, he did. 8 months ago, I, 25 female, asked my partner, 28 male, for an open relationship because I got bored with him. There was nothing particularly wrong, but he just didn't excite me much. He agreed, but he warned me that there was a catch. If I catch feelings for someone else, I'm going to leave you for her. And that's exactly what happened. Now I want him back in my arms. He left me for his new partner, a woman around 28 to 29 years old. What can I do to win the love of my life back? Comments. Comment 1. Engale, that's the ultimate reverse card for this situation. Big ups your XOOP. Really? Comment 2. Yes, really. You played yourself. He didn't excite you, so you asked for an open relationship, and now you want him back when he caught feelings for someone else while in the open relationship that you asked for in the first place. You only have yourself to blame for this one. You should stay single for a while and grow up. Oopie. I don't want to be single, I want to prove to my boyfriend I can be better now. Comment 3. Il semble qu'il vous ait averti clairement qu'il ne voulait pas une relation ouverte et utiliserait l'ouverture de la vôtre comme une chance de rencontrer de nouvelles personnes pour se déplacer avec, et vous l'avez ignoré. There's really no fixing this without a time machine. Comment 4. Well. If it isn't the consequences of your own actions. 3. OP sowing. Ha 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 yes. Fuck yeah. OP reaping. Well this fucking sucks. What the fuck? OP. Why'd he wait 8 months to leave me then? Comment 5. It can take time to develop feelings. Why does time matter? Whether it was 8 days or 8 months, he told you the risks. Update 1 to 3 days later. Probably nobody asked for this, but here's an update. I was kicked out of his house last Sunday, that's 6 days now, and I miss him excruciatingly. I will do anything to get him to return to me, but he looks happy on social media with his new partner that I'm pretty sure he was cheating on me with. Anyway, I tried calling him, no answer. I saw him in public, and he pretended to not even know who I was. He won't acknowledge my existence, so I went to our former place just to talk, and things got hostile. His new girlfriend hates me for some reason. I didn't even know her, and she proceeded to try and attack me, while he tried to split us up and get me out the door. When he had his back turned, she maced me. And now he's trying to file a restraining order on me. What did I do wrong? She attacked me and pepper sprayed me. How can I convince him he's dating a psychopath? Comments. Comment 1. Correction. He was dating a psycho lol. Leave that man alone. Learn from your fuck up and do better next time. Oop. Referring to me? Deleted. Duh. Mishi162. You brought this all on yourself. He didn't cheat on you, you asked for an open relationship. This is the result. He dumped you for someone that loves and respects him. The only course of action you have open to you now is to walk away and get therapy. OP, I'm in therapy already. Deleted. You need to find a better therapist cause this one's not working. Update 2. This will probably be the last update. The restraining order has been filed, and I am not allowed within 100 feet of my ex Harry and his new girlfriend Jess. I'm planning to move back to my home in Arizona and start over. They're happy, and I just want to find peace with myself. Thanks for everyone's advice and opinions. Yes, I was already in therapy, and I am still in therapy. Please, anyone my age or younger, listen to my advice. TikTok is not cool. Please delete it, it's done me nothing but harm, and other people's stupidity can really poison your minds. I'm living proof. Thank you, take care. Comments. Comment 1. To recap. You wanted an open relationship, he said yes, but told you if he felt a connection with someone else, then he would do the right thing and break off your relationship rather than have an emotional affair. You agreed he felt a connection with someone and realized you're insane. He was upfront with you that he wanted to end things you blame, wanting the open relationship on your ADHD because you were bored. You then try to claim he cheated when you're the one that wanted the open relationship. You went to his house to start a fight when you wouldn't leave their place. She rightfully maced you to make you leave. You call her a psycho even though you're the one that harassed them constantly. You think he was wrong for getting a restraining order against you even though you're the aggressor. You're now blaming TikTok for your actions. Did that sum it all up? Comment 2. This all started because TikTok told you to open your relationship? Honestly, though, I hope you're able to build yourself a solid mental foundation before falling into another relationship. Deleted. She would not have even seen anything on it if she herself was not actively searching for info about open relationships. The idea was already in her mind before evil TikTok sent her all those supposed brainwashing videos on open relationships. I use TikTok and I have never seen one open relationship video pop up on me. I see plenty of makeup, fitness, paranormal, metaphysical, and wedding ideas, which is because the algorithms picked up on my interests. Anyone that is that impressionable in their late 20s, that would use TikTok for their life's most important choices is someone whose maturity is quite stunted and probably should not be on the internet. I hate this, 27 degrees Fahrenheit, still suffering 2 years later. 2 years later, it's been 2 years. I've tried to stay offline and live life, but my ex and his now wife find new ways to live in my head rent-free. I wanted an open relationship, so what? You don't just string me along for 8 months, get some new girl who you met through me, and then marry her. This isn't fair. She's living in my home, with something that should be my husband, and he's been renewing the restraining order ever since it first expired, and I know he's gonna keep doing it because, for reasons beyond my knowledge, the man hates me. FML comments. Comment 1. Was he visibly happy when you wanted to open up the relationship? If he wasn't, you were making plans to date whilst he was making plans for his future and his dignity. Comment 2. Eh bien, je peux vous dire les raisons. You wanted an open relationship, he didn't. He said if you insisted, and he got feelings for someone, he would dump you. He fell in love. You got dumped. You then harassed him and his new girlfriend by showing up at their apartment to talk. You consider her yelling at you to hurry up as inciting a physical fight which ended in your being rightfully maced. You are delusional and a threat. That's why he hates you. That's why he renewed the restraining order. You need serious professional help, and you won't find it on Reddit. My boyfriend deleted my Sims saves from 2017 out of jealousy, smashed the backup USB as I begged him to stop. I broke up with him. Let's just start by saying that I, 24 male, love my girlfriend, Aaliyah, 20 female, very much. She's a super hard-working girl, and she spends a lot of her time on classes trying to get the highest grades possible for applying to nursing school in the near future. When she's not doing that, she's doing chores or cutting down on her ever-growing to-do list. And when she's not doing that, she's spending 2 hours a day playing The Sims. This is where the problem comes in. After all the stuff she does, Aaliyah doesn't have as much time to spend with me as she could. She's a perfectionist too, so when she's doing the more serious stuff like school, she puts in more effort than necessary, which is time-consuming. It really got to me that even knowing this, she'll spend so much time on The Sims. It's something frivolous she's doing when we already only get so little time together. She's also an adult, so essentially playing digital dolls almost every day is kind of something she ought to grow out of by now. I decided to step in and have her cut back on this. I obviously didn't delete the whole game, but I figured deleting the little save files she was working on would deter her from spending so much time on it. That decision backfired tremendously. When she logged onto her game, she thought there was some glitch going on and kept restarting it until I explained to her that I removed the saves. She absolutely flipped out on me, saying she'd been playing in that save file since like 2017, and I had ruined years of game progress. Sims isn't even a goal-oriented game? I told her she was overreacting because she still has the game, and she could just remake her same little characters if it mattered so much, but it doesn't need to, and maybe now she can focus on more adult interests, like loved ones. Basically, she left immediately, saying she was so stupid to leave her gaming laptop at my place, and now she won't answer my calls. I know that this is a total overreaction, but I started to feel a little bad once I realized it may not be as easy to redo her characters as I initially thought. So, AITA for deleting my girlfriend's Sim saves? TL.dr. My girlfriend is obsessed with The Sims, so to deter her from playing it so much, I deleted her save files. She blew up at me. AITA? The next day. Did you really think I wouldn't find this post? Did you really think I wouldn't see how you've been talking about me? I shudder to think what you've said and what you deleted. Why don't you tell them the real story? About how you not only deleted the save files, but also hammered the backup thumb drive so hard there's a dent on your countertop now while I cried for you to stop. Why don't you tell them about how you tag along to my SI group after bio because you don't want me to be out of your sight? Why don't you tell them about how my best friend, who's so-called in love with me, literally lives in another state and only visits once or twice a year? Why don't you tell them about how when my mother was sick a few months ago, you were blowing up my line all day, every day, for attention, knowing I was her primary caregiver 24/7? Why are you telling them you work full-time or that you manage a grocery store when you part-time manage the fast food place inside it? I want you to fucking take this to heart when I say this, but I have genuinely been so much worse off for knowing you. You've destroyed my self-esteem with your constant criticisms of what I enjoy. You've controlled me in every way for as long as I've known you. You don't understand boundaries or when no means no. Your racist fucking family treats me like dog shit, and your friends are equally racist, punk bitch assholes. You ruined something I've spent years of my life growing up with, and I could never bring myself to forgive and forget that, no matter how much love I've poured into you. I hate you for what you did to me and for what you've been doing. I mean that. I'm gonna make this so crystal clear since you didn't understand it the first time. We are through, go fuck yourself. 9 days later, that's it? Sorry for taking a while to tell everyone. I went to a local tech shop a few days ago, and they helped me to recover everything. I hadn't had the chance to update due to final season. I'm typing this on my way to class. But yes, for anyone still wondering, I got everything back.